Democrat MPs backed the measure, which now goes to the House of Lords. Among those in favour, the Conservative MP for Broxbourne, Charles Walker.
I am delighted that the most celebrated friend in my household, loved by me, my wife and my 3 children, may have the chance, does have the chance, if he wants to marry the man that he loves. I didn't come into politics to be defined by what I'm against. I want to be defined by what I'm for, and tonight is a good night.
A motorist caught driving at high speed in Luton town centre has been given a suspended sentence. Shinarai Maposa lost control of his car and crashed into a wall, as Gail Sanderson reports.
Luton Crown Court heard how the 24-year-old from Addington Way drove at 77 miles an hour down Stewart Street and drove the wrong way down Guildford Street. In Alma Street, he did a wheel spin. After he was arrested, he failed 4 times to provide a breath specimen. He was sentenced to 8 months, suspended for 2 years, was fined £2,000, ordered to pay £350 in costs and banned from driving for 2 years.
Ed Miliband's expected to criticise internet giant Google for tax avoidance at their own conference, which will be held in Hertfordshire later this morning. The Labour leader is due to speak at the Big Tent event at the Grove near Watford. A Watford football fan has reacted angrily after being told it'll cost him £1,500 to display a giant banner at the playoff final. Nick Goldstein wants to pass a giant flag over the heads of fellow supporters at Wembley, as Tony Fisher reports.
Mr Goldstein says he's keen to bring the 12 metres by 6 metres banner with "Come on you Orns" written on it. In their guidelines, Wembley Stadium says the payment to display it is for safety reasons. It says the cost is to bring in a team of 8 people to ensure the flag is manoeuvred safely over the heads of the fans in the stadium.
In sport, Andy Murray will miss the French Open, which starts on Sunday. The world number 2 still struggling with the back injury that forced him to retire from the Italian Open last week. The weather, cloudy to start but brighter later with a chance of a shower and a top temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. That's 59 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3counties.
This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Very, very exciting here. The studio I was working in is literally blown up. Not literally, but it seems to have died on me, which is no use whatsoever. Luckily, Work Experience Ollie, who I think is due a paid job at some point after the excellent service he's just provided me, steady, has managed to get JVS's studio working. So I'm in JVS's studio, and if I'm honest, it's a little bit posher than mine. He's got a big widescreen computer. He's got lights that work. He's got a comfy seat. It's a little bit low. We'll raise that. Ah, dear. All in all, rather exciting. Lots to talk about this morning, and as always, keen to get your views on this. I'll give you the contact details in a little bit, but here's some of the bits. Can you tell I'm filling while I get the computer to work? Can you tell that? Yes, good. Here's some of the things we're talking about this morning. Residents from the Hightown area of Luton have presented a petition to the council calling for action against prostitutes in the town. We'll find out if they got what they wanted at a meeting last night. A survey by the road safety charity Breakers found that 90% of people want learner drivers to have lessons on the motorway. But would you be happy to unleash learners on the fastest roads on our networks? Should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? And Nick Goldstein wants to bring the large "Come on you Orns" flag to the key game against Crystal Palace on Bank Holiday Monday. But he says Wembley has told him it'll cost a lot of money to do it. Should a Watford fan be able to display his flag at Wembley for free? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333, start your text 3CR, or you can give me a phone call, 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555. Now, a survey... look at this. Julie Morris-Smith on Facebook is already cheeking me. Iain, of course JVS's studio is posher than yours. Just don't go fiddling with all his knobs whilst you're there. Well, I'm afraid I have to. His knobs are very, very low. I need to have them much bigger than this. Now, a survey has found that 90% of people want motorway lessons to be mandatory for learner drivers. It was carried out by the road safety charity Break, which is calling for the government to change the way new drivers learn. It says altering the current system, which would include giving learners motorway experience, would really make a difference to the number of crashes caused by young drivers. Well, what do you think? Should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? I remember my first time on the motorway. I was terrified. You think, this would be a piece of cake. The first time you try and pull off on the motorway, it's very difficult. Justin Dealey's been out and about. Morning, Justin. Oh, now, Justin, where are you? Hang on a second. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to play a record, and then we'll come back and we'll speak to Justin while we get this... Oh, Justin, are you there?
Hello, Ian.
Ah, you're there. Where on earth did you go?
I was always here. It's just that posh studio. It's JVS's studio.
JVS's
all those big knobs.
It's set up in a very, very odd way. We'll get there in the end. You used an interesting phrase yesterday when you described the first time you pulled off on a motorway. Do you remember what you said in the office?
Yes, I did, and I can't use that on the radio.
You said basically you were very, very scared.
Yes. On that occasion, I wish I'd taken a spare pair of underpants to work with me because it was horrendous. I have to say that the first time I went on a motorway, because I'd never ever experienced anything like that before, and here I am in my vehicle going onto this motorway trying to get onto it, and there's cars coming down that road at 70 or 80 miles an hour. It was an experience that I won't forget. I clearly wasn't ready to be on the motorway.
Some would suggest you're still not ready, Justin, as you are the worst driver I've ever met in my life.
Leave it out. I have been talking to drivers, and I've been asking them whether people should be on the motorway as part of their driving test, and this is what those people had to say.
I don't think so. I think you should be able to drive. If you pass the test, you should be able to drive on a motorway.
Can you remember your first time on a motorway?
Yeah, probably pretty much, yeah. There weren't that many around back then.
And what was it like? Was it a scary experience?
No, it was all right.
Mine was terrifying.
No, I was okay.
I reckon that everybody should have a test on the motorway before they pass the test, definitely.
Can you tell us why?
Because it'll learn more about the changing the lanes and everything. You get a young driver on there, he thinks he can put his foot down and go 100 mile an hour.
Yeah. Is that half the problem, education?
Because
we don't know how to drive on motorways. We see so many accidents, and it's because we're not educated.
That's right, I agree with it. It is. They're not educated. It's all right showing them, telling them one or two things, but if they get on the motorway, they'll see the proper things, what goes off.
Would it make it more dangerous for you, though, if you're on the motorway and next to you there's a learner driver who hasn't even passed their test and they're on a motorway?
As long as they're with a proper instructor.
Definitely they should learn to join the motorway better.
Is it really that bad out there?
It is. They can join. People just can't drive to join the motorway. They just go straight in front of lorries. They ain't got a clue, some of them.
To me now it's just common sense, really. I wouldn't say lessons.
I do, yeah. Because a lot of young ones haven't got the sense how to use them all the way. Seem to just whiz in and out of the traffic.
Is it too dangerous for them, though, to learn how to drive on the motorway? I suppose that's the bigger question, because yes, they need to learn, but is it too dangerous to learn on the motorway?
No, it's not too dangerous to learn, as long as they've got somebody qualified with them who respects the roads.
What you need to have, Justin, and I know exactly how we can make driving much, much safer since being on my speed awareness course and then getting 3 points a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
What you need to do is you have... Don't tell anyone that, will you? That's my great shame. Is you have... You learn to drive, okay, and then once you pass your test, you can drive anywhere except for the motorways.
Yeah.
And you can only go on the motorways when you've had a significant amount of training on the motorway.
Oh, you're good.
Yes.
You are good.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It's not rocket science. I mean,
no.
People saying there about motorway driving, what's more dangerous? Somebody like myself and somebody like you going on the motorway for the first time with absolutely no experience, and we're on our own, or going onto the motorway with a qualified instructor who will educate you on how to drive safely on the motorway? Because we're always seeing these accidents. How often are we reporting serious accidents on the M1, the M25 locally? We're reporting them all the time, and it's because people don't know how to drive on the motorway. It's not part of the test.
Listen, I'm not laughing. Speaking of accidents on the M1, did you hear about George Michael the other day?
Yes, I did, yes.
How can you fall out of a car that's going at 70 miles an hour on the motorway?
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. He was well and truly outside, wasn't he?
Oh, you're good! The exciting thing is, we've got the lady coming in on the show in a couple of hours who found him on the motorway.
Well, she's got the freedom to speak now, of course, which is great.
Yes, so we'll be talking to her later on. Justin, lovely stuff. Where are you off to now? You're exciting.
Off to Watford, talking about this big flag which says "Come on, you horns." The man, of course, wants to take it.
Come on, you what?
Come on, you horns.
New Horns, okay,
yeah,
yes,
New Horns.
yes.
He wants to take it to the Wembley final on Monday, but he's been told it's going to cost a lot of money for health and safety reasons. I'll be finding out from Watford fans whether they in actual fact want to see this flag, because it's such a big flag. If you're going to be there, it's going to be above your head. You might actually miss the game. So do they want it in the first place?
No. Listen, if you're going to a pop concert, you're going to a sports event, no, don't take anything. Don't take hats, get your hair cut short. Do not do anything that might get in the way of what I've paid to see.
Oh, you're so not a football fan,
no, in the slightest, and you're not a Watford fan, so today's going to be hell for you. Speak to you later, Justin. Thank you. Ta-ta. 08459 455 555. Well, I think in the last 3 minutes we've successfully set up our stall and told you what you can expect this morning, which is good, isn't it? You still sticking around? Excellent stuff. Speak to you after this.
Been paying every day. I used to love to make you cry. It made me feel like a man inside. If I had been a man in reality, you would be here, baby, loving me. Now my nights are long and lonely, and I ain't too proud, babe, I just miss you so. Girl, but you're too proud and won't give in. But when I think about all I could win, I'll keep working my way back to you, babe, with a burning love inside. Yeah, I'm working my way back to you, babe, and the happiness that died, I let it get away. Paying every day. My road is kinda long. I just gotta get back home. Oh, I'm really sorry for acting that way. I'm really sorry. Ooh, little girl, I'm really sorry for telling you lies for so long. Oh, please forgive me, girl. Come on, give me a chance. Won't you forgive me, girl? Hey, let's start romance. Ooh, forgive me, girl. Let's start again. Come on, forgive me, girl. I want you over and over and over and over again. I keep working my way back to you, babe, with a burning love inside. Yeah, I'm working my way back to you, babe, and the happiness that died, I let it get away. Paying every day.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. If you missed the first 15 minutes of the show, well, you didn't miss a lot. It was a farce. My studio exploded. I'm in JVS's studio, which is fun. It's very posh. It smells wonderful. It's got lights that work. It's clean. He'll be furious when he finds out. He normally comes down about 7 o'clock to set up the studio. Oh, he's going to be furious. No doubt I'll get a stern phone call and a strong email later on in the show. 08459 455 555. It's 6:15. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
You're in JVS's studio. Does that mean you have luxury velour seats?
It's very, very posh in here, Adam. There's incense burning in the corner.
Oh,
there's a cat basket. I could have brought my cat in.
Oh, talk about plush.
Yeah, it's very. There's a stale croissant.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Things looking all right out there on the road so far this morning. It's a bit miserable, a bit wet and a bit rainy, but driving conditions by and large are fine. We haven't had any accidents or incidents reported, and the major routes are flowing okay. So the M25's looking clear, M40 and M1 are running all right for the time being as well. On the trains, we haven't got any major problems either. First Capital Connect did have a bit of trouble just running through London because of a signalling problem earlier at London Bridge, but they sorted that quite quickly, so things are running normally once again, so you shouldn't have any late runners coming up through Bedford or Luton. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Right, 6:17 or thereabouts. It's, where are we now? What day is it? Wednesday, I think? Wednesday the 22nd of May. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living in Hightown in Luton are calling for tougher action on prostitution in the area. MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party. In sport, the Olympic boxing gold medalist Audley Harrison has reversed his decision to retire from the sport. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks: cloudy to start, brighter later with a chance of showers and a top temperature of 15 degrees. Coming up, residents from the Hightown area of Luton have presented a petition to the council calling for action against prostitutes in the town. Before 6:30, we'll find out if they got what they wanted at a meeting last night. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Tackling your consumer problems.
Sylvie wasn't happy with the quality of her telephone line. Kate's having problems with her leaky garage roof.
The JVS Show.
5 times they've not turned up for the appointment. I've still got the leak, which is obviously getting worse.
Fighting for your rights.
I went to speak to your telephone company and I said, look, what on earth is going on?
The JVS Show.
Have they managed to fix the problem with the internet?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. But it could not, well, it would not have happened without your intervention.
If you have a consumer problem,
we can do the same for you.
It took one phone call from yourselves, whereas I've been trying for over 6 months.
The JVS Show. Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. I'll give out the phone number and the Facebook and the text numbers in a minute, because you may want to have a comment on this. This is a story we've been covering on this programme for a while now. Residents from the Hightown area of Luton have presented a petition calling to the council, calling for action against prostitutes in the town. They say the problem is out of control, with people allegedly having sex in doorways. Well, our political reporter Paul Scoynes was at the meeting at Luton Town Hall. But what exactly was the meeting about last night?
Well, it was council's full meeting, Ian, and to be honest, for the vast majority of the meeting, it was incredibly boring.
What kind of things do they discuss at this sort of meeting?
Well, this is because generally around May time they have their sort of annual meeting, so they appoint who's going to be in charge of what committee, and they decide, the political balance of each particular committee. So we're going to have 4 Labour on that committee. You're going to have 2.
So it's quite technical stuff that's being discussed. So this petition was being presented last night.
And it came at the end of this meeting, and one of the shopkeepers in Hightown, who you'll talk to later on,
Shazad, I believe.
Shazad,
yes.
That's right. He has got over 2,000 people to sign this petition. And what the petition was specifically calling for was it was almost a vote of no confidence in the 2 councillors who've been on this programme and spoken to you about the work that they say they've been trying to do. But it's basically
Roxana and the gentleman's name, I can't remember.
Andrew.
But yes, Andrew, that's
right, yeah. It was basically saying they're not doing their job and we want to vote of no confidence. So, essentially, what they say is that there's a conflict of interest because one of them works in a charity group which they say has been helping the prostitutes rather than getting rid of them. And, it is true one of them does have an involvement in it. But they said that their concerns, the residents' concerns, are coming second to those of the prostitutes. And these residents, after the meeting, Ian, told me how bad things were.
The mess, the noise from the girls. I mean, we've had it on occasions where there's cat fights outside the door at 2 a.m, night after night, and the police drive past, and Nothing much happens.
Where's your sense of frustration at? Is it the council? Is it the police? Is it other authorities?
It's the fact that the police aren't enforcing the law. They're working in a partnership, and for many years, residents didn't even realise this was the way they were acting. We saw the police as being the enforcement, but they're not.
So what can be done? What would you like?
A deterrent.
A deterrent.
I think the main thing is to go for the curb crawlers and have some real deterrent. I don't know what happens when they're arrested or what it means to them as individuals, but there needs to be something that just frightens them off from doing that.
There was talk of naming and shaming, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I know that many times the curb crawlers are arrested, and quite often they're given a caution. They might be sent on a course. I've heard about a course that they go on.
Therapy.
Therapy, well, that's the same thing, really. To attend a course to teach them the error of their ways, and hopefully they won't come back again. Well, that might work, but it's not going to be a deterrent for the other 20 or 30 or 40 men that are going to come around the corner behind them. So it's always going to keep the problem in the area.
Well, there's a lot of passion there, obviously. How did the councillors react?
Well, I mean, they take a fairly strong line on this. They say that they have done quite a lot of work already. Andrew Malcolm said he did volunteer with this charity, doesn't anymore. But he said that the charity has also done a lot for the area. He says that they've, as councillors, got gates installed which have stopped people from going down certain areas. They've referred lots of people to an antisocial behaviour team. They've cut back shrubs, small things like that, which actually they say have kind of opened up the area. They've put lots of CCTV in.
Cutting back shrubs is going to end prostitution?
Well,
how?
OK, I mean, what they say is that by...
They've tried to make it more desirable.
They make it more desirable, but also make it less... or fewer opportunities for people to go and hide behind things, effectively.
Roxana Whittaker,
Well, she says that the charity's actually working with the council anyway to try and help get women out of prostitution. She says over 90 people have been taken out of prostitution as a result of this. There is also a child exploitation unit being set up by Luton Borough Council this summer, and they said a lot of the prostitutes are coming from young... underage girls.
Really? There are children under 16 working as prostitutes?
That's what they're saying.
Okay, well, that's very sad.
And they say they have been available. They deny that they've not been contactable. They said their phone numbers are on the website, their emails are on the website. Anyone can actually get in touch with them. Now, we'll hear from them more after 8 o'clock, but this is Roxanne Whittaker, and this is what she said to me last night.
I think we have to recognise that although it's really difficult for the residents where they live, and nobody should have to live in the situation they're living in, unfortunately what we've got in Hightown is an incredibly complex problem, and it's not going to be dealt with overnight. And I think maybe one of the issues that we need to work on is making sure that the residents are aware exactly how much work we've done, how much action we have taken, and that's definitely not just recently.
I mean, to what extent is this a police issue or a council issue?
I think that there are some definite crimes that are committed around all of this, and obviously that's the police issue. But I think it's important that we work together with the police, as the council, as the health service, voluntary organisations, anyone that works together on this issue, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can, because it does have wider implications.
Well, does the council acknowledge that they have to act? Because they have to do something, don't they?
They do. I mean, it was interesting. After this petition had been presented, there was a debate, and some fairly strong opinion came up, actually. We had comments from people like David Franks, who's one of the Lib Dems, saying he understands the problem, and that the prostitute problem has effectively been moved around. He said that he himself has suffered embarrassment from being approached by prostitutes in the area, says that, they can solve the problem, but only when curb crawlers are prosecuted and named and shamed in the local press. And Mike Garrett, who's the Conservative, said that in the 80s he was chair of one of the committees, and there was a problem then, it's a problem now. He said that, curb crawlers should be fined £500, and then the next time they're caught, that should be doubled, and then that should be doubled again. So, there is a feeling, from the council at least, that this problem isn't just something that they can deal with, it is something really for the police.
And the police have been working with this. Operation Turtle is the big kind of project that's specifically working in this area?
That's right. Bedfordshire Police say they've been working with the partners, including the council, to sort of deal with the vulnerable people who get caught up in this sort of thing, the women who get caught up.
Detained or arrested 141 people since January 2013.
That's right, and over 100 of those have been for curb crawling.
very quickly, because we are running out of time, one of the suggestions that I've heard in the past is naming and shaming the gentlemen that go curb crawling. If you get rid of the curb crawlers, then the prostitutes will have to go somewhere else.
Yes.
Naming and shaming, would that work?
Well, that's again something that several councillors last night mentioned at the meeting, and I thought, well, that's quite interesting. Does it happen anywhere else? And afterwards, one of the group activists, not a councillor, but one of the group activists, came to me and said, we have to be a bit careful about that because. There's a risk of suicide of the curb crawlers if they get publicly humiliated like that. They could potentially go and kill themselves. So there is obviously concern about mental health issues around being caught up in this, and if you get arrested and so on. But I mean, I think not many people in the Hightown area, at least, will have too many objections to curb crawlers being named and shamed in the local press.
Well, let's put that out there, shall we, dear listener? Would you like it if on a Monday morning at 8:10 we had a roll call of shame? These are the people that have been caught curb crawling in the past week in Hightown in Luton. What do you think? Naming and shaming the curb crawlers, would that have an impact on the prostitution taking place there? 08459 455 555. Would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed?
See, I've gone, for tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Someday you'll know I was the one, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. And though I lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day you'll find that I have gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. And though I lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day you'll find that I have gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun.
Isn't that a nice song? How can people not like the Beatles? Incredible. 08459 455 555. Would naming and shaming the punters work? So the people that, instead of chasing off the women who are working there, and I'm shocked and saddened to hear that some of those girls are under 16. Any age is not really brilliant, but under 16? Wow. But should we name and shame the curb crawlers? Would that work? I'd love to talk to you to get your opinion on that. Also, if you've used prostitutes, would that work? If you were named and shamed, would that stop you visiting them? 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Looking at the motorway cameras, the M1 started to get quite slow. Junction 9 at Dunstable down toward 8 for Hemel Hempstead. It's rather busy around there. It is all on the move though, so if you're in the queuing traffic, it's not really going to be too much of a problem at the minute anyway. Things looking fine on the M40 still, and no delays on the A1M past Stevenage. That's looking good. I'm just looking through the Hatfield Tunnel as well, and we've got no delays there. Roadworks in Gerrard's Cross. There's a lane closed on the A413 between the Kingsway and the A40, and the temporary lights are still up in Willington along the Bedford Road, the A603. It's water main work. It's going to be ongoing for another couple of weeks, and it is likely to slow traffic down a fair bit. If you're catching a train this morning, at the minute you shouldn't have any problem at all. Everything's running to time. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. 6:30 News and Sport now. Catherine Boyle.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Joining the headlines, people living in Luton's Hightown are calling for tougher action on prostitution in the area. MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party. And a motorist's been given a suspended sentence after being caught doing 77 in a 30 zone in Luton Town Centre.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy Murray will miss the French Open, which starts on Sunday. The world number 2 is continuing to struggle with the back injury that forced him to retire from the Italian Open last week. Here's our tennis correspondent, Jonathan Overend.
After having a second scan and getting another specialist opinion, Murray has taken the wise, precautionary option and won't risk his back in Paris. It bothered him during last year's clay season and hurt badly in Rome last week. He says it's been a really tough decision to make, one he's taken reluctantly, but the last thing he wants to do is aggravate the injury at Roland Garros, a tournament he'd be unlikely to win, and risk missing Wimbledon, where of course he'll be one of the favourites. Murray, in a statement last night, apologised to the organisers of the French Open, thanked everyone for the messages of support and confirmed that his complete focus is on getting back on the court as soon as possible for the grass court season.
The Manchester City midfielder Samir Nasri has given his backing to Manuel Pellegrini joining the club as their new manager following the departure of Roberto Mancini. Meanwhile, Stoke City are looking for a new manager after Tony Pulis left the club by mutual consent. Pulis was in charge for 7 years at the Britannia Stadium but leaves after holding talks with chairman Peter Coates yesterday. The Bedford Rugby Club chairman Jeff Irvine says they won't move away from Goldington Road. His comments come the day before the first leg of their championship playoff final against Newcastle. Bedford's home ground isn't up to Premiership standard. Irvine says that promotion wouldn't be financially sound.
Cost London Welsh £1.5 million to get promoted and £2.5 million to get relegated. I can think of far better ways of spending £4 million if I had £4 million to spend. And we're not going to move away from Goldington Road. You know, Goldington Road is our spiritual home, and that's where we'll stay.
And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 7.
Sorry, that gentleman at the end, he was talking about rugby, yeah?
Yes.
Did he then use the phrase, that's our spiritual home?
Yes.
So that bit of grass where some fat men with broken noses chase a wonky ball, that's their spiritual home, is it?
You're clearly not a sports fan.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning. In the next 30 minutes, we'll have the latest on the tornado in Oklahoma. And also, should you be allowed to fly flags and other bits and pieces at football matches, sports events and pop concerts? We'll be discussing that, and no doubt you'll have your say. But before that... is tax avoidance morally wrong? Internet giant Google is holding its annual conference known as the Big Tent UK later today in Hertfordshire. Well, Labour leader Ed Miliband is due to talk at the event, which is being held at the Grove. And it comes just days after he criticised Google for avoiding tax.
Well, I think people will be shocked by the evidence that Google is going to extraordinary lengths to avoid paying their fair share of tax. And it comes on top of other firms apparently engaging in similar practices. I think it is evidence of a culture of corporate irresponsibility among certain firms, which is totally unacceptable. And of course, we've now seen allegations about petrol price fixing as well. And it comes at a time when ordinary families are seeing services cut, their taxes rising, and so many businesses are struggling to make ends meet and actually doing the right thing and paying their fair share of taxes. As so often under this government, I think it's evidence of one rule for those at the top and another rule for everyone else.
Well, Steve Baker is an independent financial advisor based in Buckinghamshire. Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Google aren't doing anything illegal, are they?
No, absolutely not. And this is where people need to make the distinction. They're not doing anything illegal. They may be doing something immoral. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They're avoiding tax. They're not evading tax. What they do is they put into place things that are generally known as black box arrangements. They've got very advanced, clever tax lawyers who show them how to work loopholes to avoid paying corporation tax. If the government wants to stop it, we have to have a concerted government response and effort to do so. But the problem here is, I suspect that we're going to need pan-European support as well, because there are different corporation tax rates across different countries in Europe. So it's a very complex area.
And we're never going to get that, are we? We're never going to get all of the countries to agree to a strict set of rules. So that means that companies, if Ireland gets closed down, they'll just move somewhere else, won't they?
Absolutely. I mean, you've picked a fantastic example there. The corporation tax rates in Ireland are 12.5%, sorry. In the UK, they're 23%. Now, this is the problem, and I don't want to go off onto this subject, but this is part of the reason why I don't think Europe works as an idea anyway, because there is no commonality. There's no common political agenda to support everybody and create this supposed level playing field.
How common is this, Steve? Are all big companies doing this, or are there some big corporations that we might consider to be slightly more ethical?
No, there are a lot of companies that are very ethical, but there are a lot of companies that are doing this. I mean, you've mentioned Google. People are aware of Amazon. People are aware of Starbucks, and there are very clever individuals like Philip Green is another one who has a very complex tax arrangement where he pays his wife through dividends through an offshore company. So there are very complicated tax structures out there for the wealthy, for these large corporations to be able to exploit loopholes, but it's not illegal.
Listen, I have an accountant. I pay him so that I have to pay as little tax as possible. And I'm not doing, I'm not got big offshore accounts. I'm not anything like that at all. But I send him my receipts for everything that I spend my money on. He says, well, you can claim that back. You can claim that. You can claim 20% of that back. Everyone does it, don't they?
Well, all your accountant's doing is obviously it'd be remiss of him not to advise you properly. And if there are things that you are able to claim because they're genuinely in everyday use for running your business, then absolutely why not? But this is a little bit more advanced. These people use very complex things like transfer pricing, which is a bit complex to go into now. But for example, Starbucks source all of their coffee via Switzerland, and you can internally siphon money from a higher rate country to a lower tax rate country.
I guess the thing is, everyone's being forced to tighten their belts. If Joe Bloggs next door defaulted on his tax, if he's earning, 35 grand a year, 30 grand a year, if he didn't pay his tax, the tax man would be on him like a ton of bricks. It does seem unfair, doesn't it?
It is unfair, but unfortunately, it is easier to attack the smaller man on the street. It's like, and I'm going to put a bit of a tangent again, sorry, but it's like inheritance tax. People that pay inheritance tax are not the rich. They're very well advised. They're very well set up. Typically, inheritance tax is obtained from the poorer part of the population, if you will. These guys have got the money. They've got the wherewithal to be able to avoid paying this tax. But people have got to be a little bit careful because we've got to walk a fine line here. We don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, because whilst I'm not agreeing with what they do create jobs, they do create employment, which in itself creates tax revenues, national insurance contributions, etc.
And final question, Steve. Are we a little bit choosy about who we get angry about? Yes, I want Starbucks to pay their fair share. Yes, I want Google to pay their fair share. I hope they leave Amazon alone, simply because I use Amazon and I don't want to start paying more money. Is there a slight selectiveness in the ones that we pick on?
Well, I think there's a self-interest thing here, because people I know will boycott certain companies, but to be truthful, it's a drop in the ocean. They're not going to have an effect. And people like you and I, let's be honest about it, if somebody has the right product at the right price, we'll forget about whether they're paying their tax or not. We want that product because it's the right price and we'll buy it.
Steve Baker, independent financial advisor from Bucks, thank you very much indeed. Well, what do you think? Should these big corporations be paying their fair share of tax? Well, of course they should. But it's not illegal, is it? Is it ethically wrong for these big corporations not to pay their fair share of tax? 08459 455 555. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Coming up after the Pointer Sisters, a gentleman wants to fly a big flag at Wembley during the Watford game. Well, should he be allowed to? Get short shrift if I was sat behind him, I tell you that.
As the midnight moon was drifting through the lazy sway of the trees, I saw the look in your eyes, looking into mine, seeing what you wanted to see. Darling, don't say a word, 'cause I already heard what your body's saying to mine. I'm tired of fast moves, I've got
BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. Yesterday, the Sun had the fantastic front page. I saw George Michael fall out of 70 miles per hour car and bounce down the M1. It's an incredible story. Some of the other papers have picked up on it. I don't know why they're so slow. But Catherine Fox, 23, skidded to a halt as the singer, 49, slammed into the carriageway. I asked the question again, how on earth do you fall out of a car on the motorway? How is that possible? Yes, my 3-year-old son tries to open the door on the car. We have a child lock. He's unable to do it. A grown adult, I nearly said sensible there, then I realised we're talking about George Michael. A grown adult, when you're on the motorway, doesn't go, all right, lads, I'm going to open the back door. Unless they're on drugs. Could they be on drugs? I know he's had a little bit of history with the old chuffer poo-poo, isn't he? Is that what they call it these days? Pot. You call it pot cigarettes, do they? Yeah, very naughty. Not for suggesting that was necessarily the case, but you never know. But you do wonder, how on earth, you're going down the motorway, can you A, open a car door, and then B, fall out? You'd have to be leaning right over. Anyway, that was yesterday's news. Today, we've got Catherine Fox, 23, who skidded to a halt as the singer, 49, slammed into the carriageway, coming in to give us the goss on exactly what happened when she saw George Michael falling out of a car on the M1. It's one of those stories you kind of... Do you remember a programme called The Day Today? Years ago, it was a spoof news show. That's the kind of story they would have done on that, isn't it? It's a made-up story from Viz or The Onion or something like that. That's not a real news story. Well, it happened, and Catherine Fox will be coming in before the end of the show to give us her side of the story, exactly what happened when she saw roly-poly 80s pop star George Michael rolling across the M1. My words, not hers. 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Everything's starting to slow on the M25. We've got traffic building from Waltham Abbey through toward Enfield, junction 26 to 25 going into the roadworks section. Anti-clockwise also slow from the M1 to Kings Langley, junction 21 to 20. The Kings Road in Berkhamsted roadworks along the A416 at the minute. They're near Ashlands Road, and they've got temporary traffic lights up in Sacombe along the Ware Road, the A602. That's for telecoms work quite near to Sacombe Pound and could cause a few delays. Looking at the M1, it is still quite slow in places, particularly as you come from Junction 9 down toward Junction 8. Not quite slow back as far as Luton yet, but I think it will be quite soon. A5's looking alright though, and the A6 is running okay as well. And on the trains, we haven't got any major issues. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. I used your report to burst a blister on the palm of my hand. Ooh. I appreciate the time. True story. Right, 6:46. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living in Luton's Hightown are calling for tougher action on prostitution in the area. MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party. In sport, Andy Murray has decided not to play at the French Open in Paris due to the back injury he's struggling with. Coming up before 7 o'clock, as rescuers in the United States say they've almost completed the search for survivors of a huge tornado in Oklahoma, I'll be hearing the latest from the BBC's Gavin Lee. But before that, let's get the weather with Wendy Hurrell.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, good morning. We've got a fairly gloomy start out there, but there are hints of brightness across parts of Bedfordshire at the moment, and we're expecting to see hints of brightness across the rest of the three counties as we go through today. So it's going to be similar to yesterday, really. Some sunny spells, a chance of a light shower here and there, light breezes, and temperatures should get to about 15 or 16 degrees at the top end. Make the most of it, though, because it's all going downhill as we go through Thursday and Friday. Overnight tonight, we are likely to see some heavy showers developing, blown in on a strong northerly wind, which is going to make temperatures fall to about 4 to 6 degrees overnight and really create quite a chilly feel to things tomorrow. So while we'll start with some sunshine tomorrow, there will be a good rash of showers throughout the afternoon, and they will be blustery showers too. Strong northerly wind at this time of year. Temperatures will struggle to get to 10 degrees Celsius, to be honest, tomorrow. And as we go through Friday as well, another spell of wet and windy weather comes through, with temperatures around sort of 9, 10, maybe 11 degrees Celsius then. So we've got 2 days of really horrible weather, but looks like the bank holiday weekend will calm down, brighten up, and temperatures should recover again. That's how it's looking for now.
Thank you, Wendy. 08459 455 555.
Nick Coffer on BBC Three Counties Radio.
This Friday, we're getting carnival fever. We'll be at the Luton Centre for Carnival Arts, preparing for the day itself, where I'll be making my very own costume for when I form part of the procession at the Luton International Carnival.
Nick Coffer.
Plus, Roger Hodgson from Supertramp talks to me ahead of a gig in Bedfordshire. I'll be learning how to street dance, and we'll hear about spooky goings-on in Luton and Dunstable.
Nick Coffer.
Live from the Luton Centre for Carnival Arts, Friday from midday.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
I really want to get your opinion on this. Imagine you're at a football match or a pop concert, right, and you're enjoying it, and the team are about to come out, or your singer's about to come out, then some muppet in front of you puts up a massive flag or a huge banner, and for the next 90 minutes you're like, I can't actually see anything. Well, a Watford fan is angry that he'll have to pay £1,500 just to display a large banner at the upcoming Championship playoff final at Wembley Stadium. Nick Goldstein wanted to bring the large Come On You Orns flag to the key game against Crystal Palace on Bank Holiday Monday. He's been told the money is needed to bring in a team of 8 people to manoeuvre the flag safely over the heads of the fans. Well, our sports editor, Jeff Doyle, joins me now. Jeff, this seems like a ridiculous idea.
It's just one of those stories, isn't it, that's amusing more than anything else. This is a big banner, let's say that first of all. It's approximately 12 metres by 6 metres. It's what's called a crowd surfing banner. And it wouldn't stay for the whole game, Ian. It would sort of be passed around over people's heads at the beginning of the match, and then that kind of would be it. So you're not going to miss any of the action.
Right.
They'll put it up before the game, and it gets pushed across the crowd from one end to the other.
Like those idiots that play with those inflatable beach balls during a Beach Boys concert.
It's all part of the atmosphere, isn't it? It's, the banner goes ahead over your head.
Who is saying he's got to pay £1,500 for this?
Wembley is saying that. They're saying that to basically, for this to happen, presumably because of health and safety, they need a team of people to move it across people's heads. Now, normally what happens at a ground is, the fans will just pass it across and it gets pushed along the line. So I think why Nick is upset is that it's been allowed elsewhere. Why is it not allowed at Wembley? And Wembley is saying you've got to pay this £1,250 plus VAT and also a car parking space for the banner.
Sorry?
That's also part of the deal.
Well, listen, I don't know whose side to be on. Part of me thinks that Wembley are being stupid, and also this gentleman's being a bit of a fool as well for wanting to take it. Fans, this apparently is common practice, though, isn't it? The fans up and down the country take these ridiculous banners and flags and pass them around.
Yes, yeah, and it's not while the game is going on. No one's missing any in action. It's before the game, and it's just so that when the players run out onto the pitch, as well as all the noise and the atmosphere, they'll see this massive banner saying, "Come on, you Orns." Just adds to it, doesn't it?
No, does it? Listen, let's be honest. Mano a mano. Do Watford stand much of a chance?
Yes. Oh, yeah. They're favourites for it.
Oh,
yeah. They're favourites to win the game. It's going to be a great occasion, and it's just, I think why this has caught people's attention is that it's a little bit of fun, isn't it? It's a big banner. It just adds to it, and they're being told, well, you can't bring that in unless you pay this amount of money if it constitutes a large banner. I mean, I think what Nick's problem is well, what does constitute a big banner, and if he turns up with it, is he going to get it confiscated?
A banner that requires 8 people to carry, Jeff, is a big banner by anybody's standards. Come on.
It doesn't normally.
Listen,
it doesn't normally mean people have to carry it. 8 people are charged to carry it across the crowd.
Sports editor Jeff Doyle, I appreciate that. Am I being grumpy? My producer thinks I'm being grumpy. I think ridiculous. No, charge him £1,500. Don't take it. Well, if you think that I'm being a little bit harsh on Nick Goldstein, he wants to bring a Come On You Orns flag to the game, do give us a call, 08459 455 555. No, I kind of agree with Wembley on this. I do. So stop the fool for taking it. 08459 455 555.
I met you once, I loved you twice, that's where this tale begins. I played my hand, I rolled the dice, now I'm paying for my sins. I got a bad addiction, maybe it's you, yeah, that's right. And I feel you taking over me, could let be a lady in here tonight. My odds are stacked, I've never been a gambling man, I've never had the winning hand, but for you, I'd lose it all. My odds are stacked, I've never been a gambling man, I've never had the winning hand, but for you, I'd lose it all. Lose it all. Oh, could she be the queen of hearts or the devil in disguise? With every move, I'm blinded by those diamonds in her eyes. I got a bad addiction, baby, it's you, yeah, that's right. And I feel you taking over me, could let be a lady in here tonight. My odds are stacked, I've never been a gambling man, I've never had the winning hand, but for you, I'd lose it all. My odds are stacked, I've never been a gambling man, I've never had the winning hand, but for you, I'd lose it all. I'm wrapped in your sweet loving, but it feels just like a curse. Just like a curse. You're beneath my skin, I start trembling. This love's so dangerous. Oh, won't you? Place your bets. Why don't you just place your bets on me? My odds are stacked, I've never been a gambling man,
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio.
but for you,
Lots of comments on Facebook about learner drivers. Should they be on the motorway learning?
I've never been a gambling man, I've never had the winning hand, but for you, I'd lose it all. My odds are stacked, I've never been a gambling man, I've never had the winning.
Now, officials in Oklahoma say they are 98% sure that there are no more bodies or survivors in the area of Moore devastated by a tornado. 24 people were killed, including 9 children. Scientists say the twister was an EF5, a rare and powerful tornado. The wind stripped trees of their bark and hurled cars through the air like missiles. Well, our reporter Gavin Lee is now in Oklahoma. Gavin, I understand you've had a chance to look around the suburbs of Moore. Describe it to me.
Yeah, I arrived there about an hour ago, and once you get towards Moore, even though the winds have subsided, the winds, you can physically feel them in the cars. You have to slow down. It's, bear in mind, it's pitch darkness here. It's the early hours of the morning. Lots of arc lights everywhere, lots of police cordoning off different areas, and you look around, and it is like a bomb has hit the place. Everywhere you can see, you'd see oddly impossibly shaped vehicles that are lodged into or up into the sort of second, third floor of some of the buildings that are still standing, the steel sort of car parks or the structures. There's one sort of lorry that looked like it was into the side of a bank that had clearly been lifted into the air and smashed into the window, and you've just debris on the floor everywhere, telegraph poles, personal belongings is the saddest thing from people's properties. And the thing that will stick with me, the thing that, even in the last hour I just thought was a heartbreaking sound, was people calling for their pets, which is one thing that, even at, 1-2 o'clock in the morning here now, people are wanting some reassurance. I mean, the one that I suppose thankful thing was yesterday you and I spoke about how there were 91 people.
I was going to ask, yes, we were talking about 91 people dead, and now it's significantly less. How has that happened?
Massively, hugely downgraded to 24 people, and 9 of those children. We said 20 children yesterday. What seems to have happened is the officials counting here were given double figures, and because of I suppose the shock of it happening, for whatever reason, the officials were doubling up on the people that were missing as well, and it turned out many of those people that were down on the list were found in safe rooms or in shelters. That most modern houses here, for example, have safe rooms or shelters. It's only the older properties that don't, and I suppose the very unfortunate thing that a number of people have complained about here, extremely angry about, I should say, are the two schools that were affected. This is the Plaza Tower Elementary, Briarwood Elementary School, where some children lost their lives. These were the only two schools of more than 100 in the whole state that didn't have safe rooms fitted. So there will be, increasing anger and criticism for the fact that there was nothing in place there.
Oh dear, very sad. Gavin, thank you very much indeed. That's Gavin Lee, who's in Oklahoma. He talks there about people calling for their pets. There is a YouTube clip that I've not seen, but that's doing the rounds of someone being interviewed on TV, and they've lost their dog, and then their dog turns up during the interview, which apparently is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I've not watched it yet, but I'll have a little look later on. I don't want to cry. 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I saw that video a little bit earlier this morning. It's very, very sweet.
Did you cry?
Just a little bit.
Oh, good lad.
M1 southbound, we've got slow-moving traffic from junction 10 at Luton down toward 9 at Redbourne, and it's still reasonably slow through toward junction 8 for Hemel as well. M25 anti-clockwise, we've got things building up between Waltham Abbey and Enfield heading into the roadworks. Then the other side of the roadworks, it's very busy between St Albans and Watford, junction 21A and 19. In Aylesbury, roadworks still along Mandeville Road, so there are temporary traffic lights up near North Drive, and the Amptill Road in Bedford has some temporary lights as well. Roadworks near the junction with Race Meadows Way at the Interchange Retail Park roundabout. That continuing for another little while around there, the roadworks. Taking a look at the M40 on the cameras, that's looking fine. Trains this morning have been running without problems, still looking good, and the tubes in London looking good as well. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Well, as the prostitution continues in Hightown, we're asking, should curb crawlers be named and shamed? Paul on Facebook says no. It's cruel, unusual punishment. Just stop prostitution. What do you think? We'll talk more after the news with Catherine.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. The headlines: calls to name and shame curb crawlers, Milton Keynes fire suspect bailed, and Hornet fans flag fury.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Councillors in Luton are calling for curb crawlers to be named and shamed as part of efforts to limit prostitution in Hightown. At a meeting last night, residents presented a petition of no confidence in their local councillors for what they see as a failure to tackle the problem seriously. Councillor Roxana Whitaker said the accusation being made against her and Andrew Malcolm is unfair.
We have to recognise that although it's really difficult for the residents where they live, and nobody should have to live in the situation they're living in, unfortunately what we've got in Hightown is an incredibly complex problem, and I think maybe one of the issues that we need to work on is making sure that the residents are aware exactly how much work we've done.
A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. The 58-year-old man was arrested on Sunday following the fire at St Ledger Court in Great Holm. The results of a post-mortem examination were inconclusive, and further tests will now be carried out. MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party. The change was supported by David Cameron but opposed by 130 Tory MPs, including 12 ministers. Most Labour and Liberal Democrat MPs backed the measure, which now goes to the House of Lords. A motorist caught driving at high speed in Luton town centre has been given a 2-month ban and an 8-month suspended sentence. 24-year-old Chinare Maposa drove at 77 miles per hour down Stewart Street, where the limit is 30. He also drove the wrong way down Guildford Street before losing control and crashing into a wall. Ed Miliband's expected to criticise internet giant Google for tax avoidance at their own conference held in Hertfordshire later this morning. The Labour leader is due to speak at the Big Tent event at the Grove near Watford, as Lorna Hankin reports.
Last week, Ed Miliband said he was shocked by evidence that Google was avoiding tax.
I think the public will be rightly outraged, and I think many businesses will be outraged because they will be paying their fair share of taxes, many small businesses, and they'll be saying, how can can big companies think this is justified and be getting away with it?
Yet today he's one of the key speakers at the high-profile event. But a senior Labour source has said this will not stop Ed from taking his message loud and clear to Google.
A Watford fan has reacted angrily after being told it'll cost £1,500 to display a huge banner at the playoff finals. Nick Goldstein wants to pass a giant flag with the slogan "Come on you Orns" over the heads of fellow supporters at Wembley, but the stadium says they'd have to pay 8 people to help handle the banner safely. In sport, Andy Murray's decided not to play at the French Open in Paris due to the back injury he's struggling with. The world number 2 says he's not fit and is now focusing his efforts on being ready for Wimbledon. The weather, it's cloudy to start but brighter later with a top temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
Listen, I don't want to be Mr. Grumpy Boots, although I'm going to be. Grow up. Just grow up.
Who, me?
No, not you this time,
Right,
Catherine,
okay.
although we do need to have words about that.
Yeah.
He wants to take a giant banner to a football match that says, "Come on, you Orns." Oh, man. This is a grown man, isn't it? It's not a child.
Yeah.
It's a grown man.
I mean, something says to me that perhaps they don't want him to fly his flag.
I just think, for goodness sakes, Nick Goldstein, I'm sure you're a wonderful gentleman and good for you for supporting your local team as much as you do, but it's a giant flag.
Can't he just paint his face like everyone else?
Why do grown men do that at football matches? They get flags painted on their face. I'd have the Spider-Man painted if I was going to go to a football match. If you're going to get face paints, get something good on there. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots to talk about. You can have your say about any of the things that I'm mentioning this morning, including residents from the Hightown area of Luton have presented a petition to the council calling for action against prostitutes in the town. At the meeting last night, it was also suggested that naming and shaming curb crawlers could be a solution. Well, would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed? You'd have a paragraph in the local paper, and we do it every Monday morning, 7:20. We'll list all the people that have been caught over the weekend. Is that something you'd like to see? Would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed? A survey by the road safety charity Break has found that 90% of people want learner drivers to have lessons on the motorway. But would you be happy to unleash learners on the fastest roads on our network? Should we allow learners on the motorway? And as you've heard in the news, Watford fan Nick Goldstein wants to bring a massive "Come on you Orns" flag to the key game against Crystal Palace on Bank Holiday Monday. It's a flag that's so big, it covers part of the crowd as it moves across them. He says Wembley has told him it'll cost him £1,500. Should he be allowed to do it for free? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. This is the best way to do it, look. Most of the phone lines are free, so now's an excellent time to give me a call. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Residents from the Hightown area of Luton have presented a petition to the council calling for action against prostitutes in the town. They say the problem is out of control, with people allegedly having sex in doorways. Well, this was Councillor Roxana Whittaker speaking to our reporter Paul Scoynes at the meeting last night.
I think we have to recognise that although it's really difficult for the residents where they live, and nobody should have to live in the situation they're living in, unfortunately what we've got in Hightown is an incredibly complex problem, and it's not going to be dealt with overnight. And I think maybe one of the issues that we need to work on is making sure that the residents are aware exactly how much work we've done, how much action we have taken, and that's definitely not just recently.
I mean, to what extent is this a police issue or a council issue?
I think that there are some definite crimes that are committed around all of this, and obviously that's the police issue. But I think it's important that we work together with the police as the council, as the health service, voluntary organisations, anyone that works together on this issue to make sure that we're doing everything that we can, because it does have wider implications.
Well, that was Councillor Roxana Whittaker speaking to our reporter Paul Scoynes last night. Some councillors at the meeting called for curb crawlers to be named and shamed in the local press. Well, Shazad Kadam is a shopkeeper who collected over 2,000 signatures against their local councillors, which was heard last night. Shazad, what exactly was your petition saying?
Well, the petition actually was a vote of no confidence, and it's not something which they actually touched at all. It was about the conflict of interest which the councillors have. Now, it's a conflict because the councillor is actually working for an organisation which is trying to keep the street workers in the area.
But the councillors, Shazad, am I correct in saying the councillors say this is not a conflict of interest and that they actually help people out of prostitution? And according to the figures I've got here, they've taken 90 girls off the streets.
Oh, I don't know where you got those figures from. Like they said recently, you can put any figures down on a piece of paper. They haven't, there must be a lot more girls coming out on the street than they actually know then, because the problem has just got worse and worse.
Are you saying that you're seeing more...
Yeah, new faces. There's more new faces out there. Even the same old ones out there which are just blatantly standing on the street corners and, just plying the trade. Now, the council, and the police have, they have, tried to do things, but it's not enough. One prostitute out there on the road,
Shazad, do you have any sympathy for these ladies? I was hearing this morning that some of these are underage girls.
I have, obviously you have sympathy for the ones which deserve it, but a lot of them out there right now, the underage girl, which, they've been known about that for 3 years now. They've known about that for 3 years now, the council and the police, but they chose not to do anything about it until we started to come out and shout about it. Now, we shouldn't have to shout like this. No one should have to live like this.
Shazad, I understand why you're angry, of course I do. Yeah. Is your anger directed at the wrong people? Instead of directing it at the council, isn't this the job of the police to stop this?
Well, the thing is, these are the partners involved. When you've got partners which are calling certain crimes a blip, and we've got, the councillors which are not, doing their duties and with helping the residents and safeguarding the residents, but they're more concerned sympathising with the prostitutes. Now, it's against everyone.
But it's up to the police, isn't it? It's up to the police to be making the arrests.
Yeah, it's a policy. It's a policy. Someone's got to out there say, look, we've got to change our policy now. We can't, this half-heartedly approach that we've got going, that which they've had for years and years. They've got to stop that.
Shazad, have a listen to this. This was Ollie Martins, the PCC, earlier on this year. He said this.
Although I appreciate the problems that some residents are having, actually, the biggest problem in the county and the biggest problem in Hightown as well, and the biggest concern that residents have is issues about burglary, robbery, violent crime. It's not my job to just listen to the people who shout the loudest. And quite frankly, I think part of the problem is that we keep having slots like this that actually highlight that if you want sex, then Hightown is the place to go. And
Shazad, has the situation got worse since you've been on?
I think it's always been like this.
Yep.
When we've got people, saying that it's not a priority of theirs or Luton Police's, the problems in the area are just a blip.
It must be frustrating. We're running out of time, Shazad. Do you think that curb crawlers should be named and shamed? That was one of the things mentioned last night, wasn't it?
We need a zero-tolerance approach. That's what we need. We need a zero-tolerance approach.
Would that include naming and shaming? So if people get caught curb crawling, we read out their names on here and it gets put in the local paper?
If that's how it should be, yes. Why not?
Shazad, stay there. Jim has called in. Jim, it's not his real name. Jim, I believe you've used prostitutes in the past.
Yeah, 20-odd years ago.
Right. Do you think naming and shaming would work?
I'm not sure it would work because I think a lot of the guys that use these ladies are almost certainly transients. They're from elsewhere. They become aware of, I guess, through the internet of where to find them and come into Luton, do their business, as it were, and go off to wherever it is that they live.
You say you've stopped using prostitutes, Jim. Was there a reason that you stopped?
The reason I used them in the first place is I was in a very low place.
Yeah.
my marriage had broken up and I was living other people's houses, and I had a need. I can't justify why I did it other than I had a need.
Oh, listen, I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to find out if we can, if there is a solution to this situation in Hightown. If you have any ideas on how, because it is not very nice for the people that live there. What can we do to stop it?
It used to be in Crawley Road, and I don't think you can stop it because I didn't know it had moved elsewhere. But it used to be in Crawley Road. Obviously, the police have done something about Crawley Road, and they've moved on elsewhere. But it'll just move from place to place in the same way as it did in Northampton.
Jim, thanks very much. I appreciate your time. Shazad, it's sounding bleak, you know. Do you just want it moved a few streets away?
No, well, you know, Ian, as I've said to you in the studio before, we don't want no ward or no area to go through what we have to go through. I mean, this problem in the Hightown area was designed to move from Brook Street, Crawley Road, into our area. It was, the cameras were put up, the drug centres were put in place, the prostitutes were moved into the area. Now these places which have been designed in our area, have been designed to locate them in our area. You know, they need to take a different approach, zero tolerance. You know, arrest them, do whatever they're going to do, and get them out of our area. You know, Chief Superintendent 2 years ago said that, you know, to the partners that they really need to, within the next 2 years, curb prostitution in the Luton area.
Curb the curb crawling. Have you not thought, and I'm not for 1 second suggesting you do this is just an idea, you get a load of you, 5, 6 of you, go out with torches and a video camera and you film them. That'll scare people away, wouldn't it?
Well, the thing is, you know, end of the day, you know, it has been done, and they have got images, the BBC, the police know about this, but what can you do? You know, they're out all day, all night.
Well, Shazad, listen, I can understand why it's so frustrating for you. I appreciate you coming on. We'll be following this story a bit closer. Naming and shaming curb crawlers. Would that work? Trying to put myself in that position. I can't imagine why I would be curb crawling, but it would be literal shaming. Full on shame. My name in the local paper, my name being read out by Jonathan Vernon Smith as someone who's picked up a young girl on the streets. It would literally shame me. Would it be enough to stop me? I don't know. Naming and shaming. Would it work? 08459 455 555. A couple of comments about this on Facebook. As I said, Paul says, no, it's cruel, unusual punishment. Just stop prostitution. Well, how, Paul? How do you stop it? And Sue says, yes, name and shame. Who are the men that use them? Are they elderly?
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So far, things looking reasonably good out there on the M40. We haven't got any problems. Checking the cameras, things have been looking fine so far. And round High Wycombe, round about High Wycombe started to look a bit busy. So maybe if you're coming toward the Handy Cross roundabout, you might experience a little bit of traffic building up. M1 has been slow on the cameras this morning, actually. It's still busy southbound from junction 10 at Luton Airport through to 9 at Redbourne. A little bit busy as you come down past junction 8 as well, but it is all moving around there. M25 anti-clockwise, speed sensors are picking up slow-moving traffic from St Albans through to Watford. It's also looking quite busy as you come into the roadworks anti-clockwise, so from the Essex side, Waltham Abbey through to Enfield. In Enfield, we've got traffic on the A10. It's building southbound between Bullsmore Lane and Southbury Road. And CCTV cameras, you can see queues on the A1 through Boreham Wood, so if that's your route into London, things looking slow between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. As for the trains, so far this morning, no major problems or delays. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Right, 7:16, it's Wednesday the 22nd of May. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living in Luton's Hightown are calling for tougher action on prostitution in the area. MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party. And in sport, Andy Murray has decided not to play at the French Open in Paris due to the back injury he's been struggling with. The weather today for beds, Herts and Bucks. Cloudy to start, brighter later with chances of a shower and a top temperature of 15 degrees. Coming up, should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? It does seem crazy. You pass your driving test, And you can go on the motorway without any training whatsoever. Lots of you having your say on Facebook. Facebook.com/BBC 3CR. We'll read out some of those in a few minutes.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
There's live rugby union commentary in Three Counties Sport on Thursday night.
And now Bedford driving. Now the crowd at last is waking up here.
Bedford play the first leg of their Championship playoff final against Newcastle.
Ransom seen clear blue gap there. The sea just opened up for Ben Ransom.
Follow the Blues at Goldington Road. Three Counties Sport, Thursday night from 7 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, the Facebook page is very feisty this morning. Facebook.com/BBC 3CR. We're talking about learner drivers on the motorway. I will go read some of those Facebook comments in a second. Go on there and do argue with each other. I like it when you argue with each other. You see why I enjoy it so much. Play nice, though. That's my only rule. Is kind of play nice on it. No personal insults. Well, the reason we're talking about this is because the motorways are, of course, the fastest roads on the network. And a new survey suggests the majority of us think that learner drivers should have mandatory lessons on motorways. 90% of those who responded to the Brake survey wanted learners to have lessons in difficult conditions. Well, at present, learner drivers aren't allowed onto motorways, but they can the moment they're qualified. I would suggest that's perhaps a little bit too late. Well, later on, I'll be talking to the Road Haulage Association, which has reservations about allowing learners on the motorway. But before that, Ellen Booth is a senior campaigns manager at the road safety charity Brake. Ellen, were you surprised that so many people in the survey thought this was a good idea?
I wasn't actually surprised by that because I think most people recognise that you do need supervised education about how to use motorways as a learner driver, because of course they are difficult and they are different from other types of learning to drive. So different from driving in towns, different from driving in rural areas, and of course as a learner it's best to get a wide range of experience.
Everybody on the Facebook page is pretty much saying, yes, Natalie says most definitely learners should have to be able to learn to drive defensively in all situations. Beverly says only once they've passed the test. This is the big theme I'm spotting here. People saying yes, but only once they've passed their initial test, then they should have a few extra lessons on the motorway. Does that sound like a sensible idea?
Well, I mean, actually, we're actually calling for an even more comprehensive approach. So, yes, motorway driving would be one element of that, and certainly that could be after the driving test, and there's no reason why it would have to be before, but certainly we would want there to be mandatory lessons on motorways. But actually, if we are going to look at how we tackle young driver crashes, then we need to look more comprehensively at the whole system of learning to drive.
Oh, go on. What other changes would you like to see made?
Well, we're particularly interested in a system called graduated driver licensing, which involves a minimum learning to drive period and then post-test restrictions for a period as well, and we've seen in other countries that it dramatically reduces the number and severity of crashes.
What restrictions would you like to see?
Well, it could include things like a zero tolerance drink drive limit, a ban on driving in the early hours, and restrictions on young passengers as well. So you're having driving your friends in the vehicle with you for a period after you've immediately passed your test. And these restrictions are evidence-based. I mean, basically they're the kinds of situations where you're most likely to crash as a...
I'm always surprised that you're allowed to have even one drink when you drive. I think that's ridiculous. But would you agree with me, Ellen? I've said for a long time, 17's too young to learn to drive. Should be 21, 22.
Well, I mean, that's not something we call for, but age does play a big role. So if, for example, you delay learning to drive till you're 18 or till you're 19, when you do pass your test, your risk will be lower. So age does play an important part in it.
The problem with motorways, and I drive on a motorway every single day, it's not necessarily new drivers, it's idiot drivers that have been driving for a long time that have picked up terrible habits. The people that go right up my backside or hog the middle lane. Everyone needs a bit of motorway learning, don't they?
Well, I would suggest that, every driver has a huge responsibility when they are behind the wheel because, you effectively have other people's lives in your hands. You have a lot of power when you are driving. So we would recommend that everybody is refreshing their skills, is refreshing their memory of the highway code regularly.
And you mentioned a minimum amount of lessons, a minimum amount of time before someone could pass their test. What would that minimum be?
Well, that could be anything from 25 up to 50 hours. But I mean, what we're doing at the moment is discussing with government how we could implement some kind of system that could include either all or any of these elements.
What about those courses that can teach you to drive over a weekend? They're good, aren't they?
Unfortunately, what we're saying is that actually those kinds of courses, in the wrong hands can be dangerous. So if perhaps it's a refresher course just before you take your test, perhaps you've already been learning for a year, steadily over that year-long period, then, in those situations, then that might work for you. But for example, if you've just turned 17, you want to do a crash course in learning to drive, then that's not ideal at all because you just won't have the experience when you do get out there on the road.
Ellen Booth from Brake, thank you very much. I think most of what she says makes sense. I'm not sure about the minimum amount of time you could learn to drive. I think some people are better drivers instinctively than others, but the rest of it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Should we allow learner drivers on the motorway? 08459 455 555. Leslie's in Bedford. Morning, Leslie.
Morning.
Are you a driver?
Yes.
How long have you been driving for?
About 30 years.
OK, so you've been doing it a while.
Yes.
You've been doing it a while. You've been doing it since I was 9 years old. I don't want to... Yes. What was it like the first time you drove on the motorway?
Terrified.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just... I find it intimidating.
Do you do it now? Do you drive on the motorway now?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
How do you get to places?
My husband drives.
Really?
Mm.
When was the last time you drove on the motorway?
Oh, crikey. I don't know.
Gosh, a long time ago.
Yeah.
What's so scary about it? I can understand the first few times. I remember the first time I pulled onto the motorway. Oh, my goodness, I was terrified. But once I'd done it 2 or 3 times, it was a piece of cake. What makes you so nervous?
Well, a couple of times I drove on there, I just had 2 bad experiences, and it just terrified me and put me off for life, I think.
What experiences did you have? You didn't fall out of the car at 70 miles an hour like George Michael, did you?
No.
OK, well, that's something.
The first time I was driving, a car with a caravan. I think he forgot he had a caravan and he just pulled straight out in front of me. My husband actually helped. He just sort of helped and grabbed the wheel. Because I don't know, I didn't freeze, but I started to brake. But he could see that I needed to get out of the way.
Yeah.
That one, and then another one with a lorry, and I thought, I can't do this.
Why would anyone drive... why would anyone tow a caravan along? You can go to caravan parks where they have caravans now.
No, I can understand people, they want to tour. It's not that, it's just I think he forgot he had it on.
Oh, dear.
Had it with him.
Leslie, I appreciate your call. 08459 455 555. Listen, I've got nothing against caravans. I've spent many a good holiday in a caravan. Let me rephrase that. I've spent many a holiday in a caravan. But why would you tow it along the motorway, for goodness sakes? Why would you tow it... The caravan parks have caravans in. What does a caravan go for these days? I don't know, what, £10,000? It's a complete guess. It's £10,000 too much. Caravans annoys me. The idiots that drive at 65 miles an hour in the middle lane on the motorway, oh, move over, please. And also the other thing that annoys me, those lorry drivers, where they're limited to, is it 56 miles an hour? But if a lorry's got cargo in, it's slower going up a hill. So an empty lorry overtakes it going up the hill because it's going faster. But they're both doing kind of 54, 56. And then the empty lorry gets in front, and then they go down the hill. So then the lorry that's full is faster. So they're just constantly leapfrogging each other. Just get over it. You're not going to get there. You'll get there 30 seconds quicker. 08459 455 555. Some of the Facebook comments. Should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? Warren says, yes, but only once they've passed theory and driving tests. A further couple of lessons should be with your driving instructor and therefore your L plates too. At least everyone else will know they've reached a minimum standard before they start driving on motorways. Drake says, how would you deal with these people who live nowhere near a motorway? Well, they wouldn't be allowed on until they've driven. They wouldn't be allowed on until they've been taught how to do it. Jane says, I agree with other posters. After a learner has passed his or her test, they should have a couple of extra lessons on the motorway in order that the new driver has some idea of joining and having a junction. Well, it makes perfect sense to me. If you've learned to drive a car, fine, you can drive on A roads and B roads and you can do all of that and you can stop at junctions and you know that you can turn right in those yellow boxes. You can wait in those yellow boxes if you're turning right. You know that? Oh, well, the guy in front of me the other day didn't. Idiot. Anyway, you should have a couple of lessons on the motorway before you're allowed off on your own. 08459 455 555. You can go to Facebook as well. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. And on a subject that's connected with cars, maybe you should have a driving lessons before you go curb crawling as well on the etiquette of picking up young women and paying them for sexual services in the back of your car. I don't get curb crawling. I can kind of understand why people might want to go and see a prostitute. I can kind of get that, and I don't necessarily have a big problem with that. Curb crawling, though, you're paying, 25 quid, 30 quid for a bit of mucky business in the back of your car? Where's the glamour? Where's the romance in that? Should curb crawlers be named and shamed? The reason we're mentioning this is the Hightown residents are upset still at the number of curb crawlers and the way it's being treated by the council and the police. Well, one suggestion at a council meeting last night was that curb crawlers should be named and shamed. I know it's a long shot. I'd love to talk to you if you've ever been curb crawling. You can use a different name if you want. Say you're from a different area, I don't care. If you've ever been curb crawling, why did you do it? What was the buzz? And what would stop you? If your name was in the local paper or mentioned on this show, would that stop you curb crawling? 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
M1 southbound, heavy traffic still from junction 11 at the Dunstable Road down to around junction 9 at Redbourne for the A5. It's looking pretty slow around there at the minute. Cameras picking up a lot of traffic around there. M25 anti-clockwise, busy in a few places. First off as you come into the roadworks section from junction 26 at Waltham Abbey to 25 at Enfield. Then delays from St Albans to Watford, junction 21A to 19. And it's also really busy from Maple Cross to the M40. I was looking at that one just a moment ago on the cameras and it's very slow. A10, we've got delays either side of the M25. So first off as you come southbound through Cheshunt, it's looking quite busy toward the Winston Churchill Way, and then through Enfield, queuing between Bullsmore Lane and Southbury Road, while the A1 in Boreham Wood looks slow as well. Stirling Corner through to Mill Hill Circus. If your commute involves the trains this morning, you shouldn't have too much of a problem because everything's running to time. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. 7:30 News and Sport now. Here's Catherine.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. Councillors in Luton are calling for curb crawlers to be named and shamed as part of efforts to limit prostitution in Hightown. A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. And MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy Murray's decided not to play at the French Open in Paris due to the back injury he's suffering with. The world number 2 says he's not fit and will now focus his efforts on being ready for Wimbledon. Murray's friend Ross Hutchins believes he's made the right decision.
First and foremost, Andy needs to realise he's got a lot of more years at the top of the game. You know, he's 26 a couple of weeks ago. He's number 2 in the world. It's important for him to do well in the slams, but ultimately Wimbledon is a huge priority. He's seen numerous specialists, which he hasn't done in the past, so it's really a serious injury right now, which he needs to get fit.
The Manchester City midfielder Samir Nasri has given his backing to Manuel Pellegrini joining the club as their new manager following the departure of Roberto Mancini. And Stoke City are looking for a new boss after the announcement that their manager of 7 years, Tony Pulis, is leaving following talks with chairman Peter Coates yesterday. The Bedford Rugby Club chairman Jeff Irvine says they won't move away from Goldington Road. His comments came the day before the first leg of their Championship playoff final against Newcastle. Bedford's home ground isn't up to Premiership standard and Irvine says it's not an ideal ideal situation.
Just imagine a scenario. We won it. We didn't go up. Newcastle stayed down, and London Well stayed up, and they don't want to stay up. I mean, how stupid would that be? Can that be good for the game in the long term? Can't be, can it? We are what we are. We're a very good championship side, and I see nothing wrong with being the 14th best rugby club in the country.
Finally, Audley Harrison has reversed his decision to retire from boxing. The 41-year-old heavyweight says he's in the best shape of his career, so why retire? And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, he's in the best shape of his career to receive a big fat cheque for getting beaten up by another man. The thing I learnt from your news bulletin there, Catherine, apart from the fact you're excellent at doing the news...
Why, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just saying it.
Yeah, I know you are.
Yeah, but the Andy Murray is 26.
I know, I thought that too.
I'm literally old enough to be his dad.
I know. It's shocking, isn't it? You kind of assume these people are the same age as you are, but then you realise you're overlapping.
Oh, for goodness sake. I honestly, I thought he was 35.
Yeah.
Dear.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties
26. He doesn't look 26. He looks like an old man. I mean, he sounds like an old man. We know that. That's part of his, in inverted commas, charm. But he looks like an old man. I'm literally old enough to be his dad. I would have had to have started early, but I come from a council estate in Slough where a lot of people did. Not me, but a lot of my neighbours did. So it is mathematically possible, just. Well, coming up in the next 30 minutes, residents from the Hightown area of Luton have presented a petition to the council calling for action against prostitutes in the town. It was suggested last night that naming and shaming curb crawlers could be a solution. Well, would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed? And a survey by the road safety charity Break has found that 90% of people want learner drivers to have lessons on the motorway. Would you be happy to unleash learners on the motorways? Should learner drivers be allowed on the fastest roads on our network? 08459 455 555. You can text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Now, a Watford fan is angry that he'll have to pay £1,500 just to display a large banner at the upcoming Championship playoff final at Wembley Stadium. Nick Goldstein wants to bring the large "Come On You Orns" flag to the key game against Crystal Palace on Bank Holiday Monday. Nick joins me now. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Nick, but describe... Listen, I'm not a football fan, so I need some help with this. Describe this flag to me. How big is it?
It's probably about 25, 30 foot by maybe 15 foot.
So it's pretty darn big?
It's a big flag, gets passed over people's heads.
And how many people does it take to carry it?
Not sure, really. Probably about a row of 10 or 15 people.
Now reassure me, Nick, because if I went to a sporting event or a pop concert and some muppet got a giant flag out in front of me, I'd be furious. Is this held up during the game?
No, it's before the game.
Okay, well in that case I'm going to go slightly softer on you, because otherwise I was furious with you, Nick.
No, we don't block people's view with it.
So it just goes up before the game when everyone's settling in, they're having their cup of bovril and their meat pie. You get the flag out and everyone starts.
And it gets passed around the stadium.
Okay. Now, have you taken this to other games?
I have, yes.
And what's the reaction been from the grounds?
I mean, we've had it for years, and it's been up and down the country. It's been to Portsmouth, it's been up to Newcastle, it came to Leicester for the playoff semis. People love it. People like seeing it. It's that whole mentality of taking something that represents your club.
Does it get passed around all over the place?
It does, yes.
How do you get it back?
Well, I try and follow it.
Oh,
and I've been successful so far.
Okay, well done. Now, you got in touch with Wembley to ask about this. What did they say?
They have regulations that if you want to bring in a large banner that gets passed around the stadium, you have to pay £1,500 to pay for a team of 8 people to follow the flag around the stadium and make sure that you get it back and make sure that no one gets hurt or harmed by it.
Sorry, how does one get hurt by a flag?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. And £1,500. When you heard that, what was your reaction?
It's to me, it just seems like another way that the FA or Wembley are just trying to rip fans off for no apparent reason, just trying to extort more and more money out of fans.
It does seem odd, and I may have been slightly harsh on you earlier on. I still think you need to grow up, and we'll have that chat in a minute, young man. Don't you worry, that's coming. But it does seem odd that if you've been to all these other stadiums around the country and you've used it and you've carried this flag, that for Wembley to kind of go Yabu sucks and say, no, you can't have it unless you pay us a load of money, it does seem a little bit mean.
Yeah, it's you pay enough for your tickets to the match as well without having to then pay that sort of fee for taking a flag in.
Nick, stay there because I want you to say hello to my good friend and Luton fan, Justin Dealey. Morning, Justin.
Hello, good morning.
Justin, say hello to Nick. He's a Watford supporter.
Hello, Nick. You well, sir?
Very well, thanks. How
Excellent.
are you?
Yeah, very well. I've got a smaller flag that you can borrow. It's a Luton Town flag. League Cup winners 1988. You know, major trophy.
Yeah, I'm sure that wouldn't really be appreciated in the Watford end on Monday.
Can I just say, Nick, Justin is being very polite. Some of his language about Watford supporters this morning was rather fruity.
Oh, come on, that's harsh. That's harsh.
Justin, you've been out speaking to people about this, haven't you?
Yes, I've been in Watford this morning, and I've been talking about Nick's flag. I've been asking people whether Nick should be allowed to take that flag into Wembley Stadium, and this is what people had to say.
Nick, have a listen.
Now, Pamela, you're going on Monday. First of all, how excited are you about the prospects of going to Wembley?
Marvellous. I feel great. Bit nervous, but I still feel we do well there.
So what about the flag? Should this man be allowed to take the flag to Wembley?
Yes, of course he does.
And tell us why.
Well, all large teams have flags. Man U, Man City, Celtic, Liverpool.
Health and safety gone mad, then?
I can understand taking sticks out of flags, but not a big flag with no sticking.
Yeah. But how would you feel, though, just lastly, how would you feel if you're trying to savour the atmosphere, trying to watch the game, and suddenly this massive flag comes above your head and you can't see the game?
It's not there very long. We move it from fan to fan.
Sure, it's a huge game on Monday, but should this man be allowed to take the flag?
Of course he should be able to take a flag, so long as it doesn't impede anyone else's view. He should be able to take what he likes in there.
That's the problem, though. People are going to the game. It's going to be going above their heads. Wow, so they might not be able to see the pre-match or even during the match.
Yeah, well, as I said, so long as it doesn't impede people's views, then they should be able to take what they like in there and be able to sort it out amongst themselves.
Jackie, your son's going to be going to the game. Just how excited is he?
Oh, very. Completely.
Is he driving you insane?
Yes, you could say that.
So this massive flag we're talking about, should it be allowed to go to Wembley? What do you think?
As long as he's prepared to pay for it and it doesn't interfere with the game, then yeah, I don't see why not.
Should he be forced to pay £1,500? That's a lot of money, isn't it? It's only a flag.
If it costs money to have 8 people to carry it for the whole so-called health and safety, then yeah, he should.
Wayne, you're going to be there on Monday. What's the score going to be?
3-1.
3-1 to Crystal Palace?
Oh, you're having a laugh.
3-1 to Watford, clearly, then. So, this flag, should Nick be allowed to take it inside Wembley?
Of course he should.
Yeah?
Yeah, why not? You know, Liverpool do it every single game, don't they? They have it there. Why not?
So you don't see any issues with health and safety whatsoever?
Not at all. None whatsoever.
How would you feel, though, before the game, if you're trying to soak up the atmosphere and this massive flag's going above your head? How would that make you feel?
No, that's all part of the atmosphere, isn't it? That's what you want. I mean, I always think, you know, walking out in front of that cop with that flag, Stevie Gerrard must feel so great. Well, so will Elman Abdi, bring it on.
Well, Justin, people, they're seemingly giving the thumbs up to the flag.
Yeah, I think, if you're a football fan, I think if you look at some of the major grounds in the UK and across Europe, a lot of these clubs have massive flags, and that is part of the atmosphere. When I've been to Wembley before, I've seen people with huge flags. I've certainly never heard about somebody saying, well, you can take the flag with you, but we need 8 people, and it's going to cost you £1,500. Having these big flags and being really, really colourful is all part of the atmosphere. It's such a big occasion such as Monday, and it is such a massive occasion, the richest game in football, of course.
Nick, what's going to happen? Are you going to get the money? Are you going to take the flag?
Even if I get the money, I wouldn't pay it. It's just the principle of not paying that sort of money.
Well, listen, Nick, you don't know this, and neither do you, Justin, but I have a surprise for you.
Oh, yes.
Justin is going to do a sponsored run this weekend, and he's going to do his best to raise the £1,500. If he doesn't make it... He's
going to ask all of his friends that are Luton fans.
He's going to pass the hat at Luton. If he doesn't make it, he's going to pay the rest out of his own pocket, so you can... Is that OK, Justin?
I think I'm losing the signal. Can you say that again?
Listen, before we go, because I know this hurts you, Justin. Last week you spoke to a Watford fan, and you found it difficult to congratulate her. Right? Nick sounds like a nice chap. He needs to grow up. How old are you, Nick?
25.
You're 25, so stop trying to take a big flag to a football match. Grow up. But, Justin, can you congratulate Nick for Watford's success and wish him the best of luck for Monday?
Well, yeah, best of luck.
Can I ask you to do it without sounding sarcastic?
Okay. Nick, I hope you have a great day on Monday. I'm sure you're going to enjoy yourself, and it has been a great season. And hopefully next season will be just as good for you in the Championship.
Justin!
Couldn't quite go the whole way.
He couldn't, could he? And I apologise for that. Nick.
But that's quite impressive from a Luton fan, so I'll take it.
Nick, listen, enjoy the day. We'll be following it closely. I wish you the very best of luck, even if Justin Dealey can't. And maybe sneak the flag up your trouser leg or something. See if you can sneak it in later.
Try that.
Nick, thank you very much. And Justin, you're a very naughty man.
Hey, listen, I've got a lot of people that are listening that are Luton Town supporters. I can't say things like that. You know, best of luck, seriously, to Watford on Monday. It's been a great season for them. They deserve to be where they are. It's going to be a great game. Of course, it's the richest game in football. But I have got a lot of people listening who are big Luton Town supporters, and I want to be going home today safely. Okay?
Are they seriously now? Do Watford stand a chance?
Absolutely, of course they do. I think on Monday they got a massive chance. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Brighton. Crystal Palace going into that game on poor form, to be fair. Haven't won probably many of their last 10 games. So Watford are the form team. They're the top goal scorers in the league. They've got every chance of winning. And of course, if they do go up, it's a fantastic achievement for them.
Justin Dealey, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. The match, of course, is on Monday, which I believe is a bank holiday. I'm working. Don't worry about that. I'm in. And we'll have Barry from Watford is going to be on the phone on Monday, giving us his predictions for the football match on Monday. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Facebook.com/BBC3CR if you want to take part on the Facebook page. We've been talking as well about Hightown. Prostitutes in Hightown, if you're interested. Should the curb crawlers be named and shamed? Well, I had a cheeky email from a gentleman, from Steve. I don't know how accurate this is. I'm going to read it out. Steve says, Iain, the local newspapers used to name and shame curb crawlers in Luton. On more than one occasion, the names of senior local police officers and councillors was published. Is that true? Is it? Very naughty if that's the case. Richard on Facebook says, perhaps the Dibble could also patrol that area with machine guns. Jenny says it's curb, not curb. No, I think you can spell curb, C-U-R-B. You can, yes, you can, Jenny. I think you can. So, yes. Some people need to pay for sex for various reasons, she says. It's not illegal. Our laws make it illegal for a legal act to take place. Legalise and licence brothels. If you fine prostitutes, how do you think they'll earn the money to pay the fine? If you give those who want to pay for sex a place to go, it may reduce the curb crawling. Well, I think that's a perfectly legitimate argument. There's some people who would argue that we should legalise brothels and take it off the streets. Nobody is proud to have to pay for sex. They may well already be ashamed, but they're entitled to do it. So how would their kids feel at school? When their friends find out, what stigma will be attached to them? I know you'll probably say he should have thought of that, but we're talking of fulfilling a basic human need. It may not be their fault that they have no other way to fulfil it by them paying for it. Well, yeah, but we do have to take responsibility for our own actions. And so if there is a chance that your kids might be humiliated by your action, you have to consider that before you do it, don't you? Listen, there are other ways of getting sexual gratification without visiting a prostitute. 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's looking quite slow at the minute on the M1. We've still got delays coming southbound from junction 11 at the A505 through to 10 at the Luton Airport Spur. Looking at the speed sensors, hasn't eased up very much around there yet this morning. In fact, it looks like it's getting busier. A5 through Dunstable's looking slow as well. And as you come down the A5 toward the M1 at junction 9, we've got a bit of a queue as you're coming toward Markyate. Things in Hemel Hempstead looking a little bit busy on the A414 toward the M1 at junction 7. A41 through Kings Langley down towards the M25 is looking slow as well. And we've got patches of slow-moving traffic on the M25 that start in Essex and come round toward Enfield at the roadworks. Then we've got Chorleywood to the M40 looking busy as well. A little bit of traffic past St Albans at junction 21A. A1 as you come into London through Boreham Wood, queues Stirling Corner through to Mill Hill Circus, and further up on the A1 as you come toward the Black Cat roundabout, that's looking quite slow now on the sensors as well, but thankfully routes in and out of Bedford looking okay. The A421 not doing too badly. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. More from him in 15 minutes. It's 7:46. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Councillors in Luton are calling for curb crawlers to be named and shamed as part of efforts to limit prostitution in Hightown. A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. In sport, Audley Harrison has reversed his decision to retire from boxing, saying he's in the best shape of his career. Before 8 o'clock, coming up, a survey by the Road Safety Charity Break has found that 90% of people want learner drivers to have lessons on the motorway. But should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? 08459 455 555. What was your first time on the motorway like? Mine was terrifying. By the third time, I pretty much got it, but I remember trying to pull onto the motorway. Oh, it was awful. 08459 455 555. Let's get the weather now. Here's Wendy Hurrell.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, good morning. We've got a fairly gloomy start to the day once again, but we're hopeful for some sunny spells to break through as the day goes on. 8 degrees in Luton at the moment. I should think we'll get to about 15 or 16 degrees. And there's always a risk of a light shower today, but otherwise it's going to be mainly dry. Now, as we go through the evening and overnight, it all begins to change for the worse, I'm afraid. Much more likely overnight to see a shower that could be a bit on the heavy side, and they're going to be blown in by an ever-increasing northerly wind. And that's going to bring with it some really chilly air for Thursday and Friday. So overnight we're looking at lows of 4 to 6 degrees Celsius, and there will be a quite different feel to things out tomorrow morning. This strong wind continues throughout the day, overnight and into Friday as well. And for tomorrow, after a sunny start, there will be a good scattering of showers throughout the afternoon, which themselves will be a bit on the heavy side. And you won't be going mad if you see a flake of snow falling over some of the higher grounds around the Chilterns, because there is a possibility that there will be 1 or 2 flakes here and there. Temperatures tomorrow struggling, really struggling, perhaps not getting into double figures. And when you factor in that cold northerly wind as well, it won't feel very much like late spring. As we go through Friday, another spell of wet weather coming through. With that, some strong winds again. So temperatures will be maybe 9 or 10 degrees, but no better than that. So 2 really pretty horrible days, to be perfectly honest. But the better news is that the bank holiday weekend will be largely dry. There will be some sunny spells, and temperatures should be recovering to about 14 or 15 degrees Celsius. That's your weather this morning.
Thank you very much.
Bank holiday Monday normally means barbecue, sunshine and not doing a lot. Not here on BBC Three Counties Radio. We're at Wembley for the Championship playoff final.
It's game on again!
Watford take on Crystal Palace in possibly the richest game in football.
What a goal! He's done it!
Promotion to the Premier League awaits. From midday, we're live from Wembley to bring you all the build-up.
And Watford will play at Wembley!
The Championship playoff final. Watford versus Crystal Palace. Bank holiday Monday on BBC Three Counties Radio.
I'll be in on Bank holiday Monday between 6 and 9. We'll be talking about that football match. We're getting Barry from Watford on to give us his fans' eye view and his predictions of what he thinks is going to happen. And don't forget, while we're doing a little bit of business, Friday afternoon, I don't know, about maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the podcast of this show gets launched. It's a weekly podcast. You'll be able to get it from the BBC website and from the iTunes as well, I believe. And it'll be like a kind of little best of the week, although we're not calling it a best of the week. Now, should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? Do you remember your first time driving on the motorway? Mine was terrifying. Oh, it was awful. What was yours like? Were you confident? I bet you weren't. I bet you were very nervous. Well, a survey has found that 90% of people want motorway lessons to be mandatory for learner drivers. It was carried out by the Road Safety Charity Break, which is calling for the government to change the way new drivers learn. Well, should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway? Justin Daly was out and about this morning asking that exact question.
I don't think so. I think you should be able to drive. If you passed the test, you should be able to drive on a motorway.
Can you remember your first time on a motorway?
Yeah, probably pretty much, yeah. There weren't that many around back then.
And what was it like? Was it a scary experience?
No, it was all right.
Mine was terrifying.
No, I was okay.
I reckon that everybody should have a test on the motorway before they pass the test, definitely.
Can you tell us why?
Because it'll learn more about the changing the lanes and everything. You get a young driver on there, he thinks he can put his foot down and go 100 mile an hour.
Yeah. Is that half the problem? Education? Because we don't know how to drive on motorways. We see so many accidents, and it's because we're not educated.
That's right, I agree with it. It is. They're not educated. It's all right showing them, telling them one or two things, but if they get on the motorway, they'll see the proper things, what goes off.
Would it make it more dangerous for you, though, if you're on the motorway and next to you there's a learner driver who hasn't even passed their test and they're on a motorway?
As long as they're with a proper instructor.
Definitely they should learn to join the motorway better.
Is it really that bad out there?
It is. They can't join. People just can't drive to join the motorway. They just go straight in front of lorries. They ain't got a clue, some of them.
To me now it's just common sense, really. I wouldn't say lessons.
I do, yeah. Because a lot of young ones haven't got the sense how to use them all the way. Seem to just whiz in and out of the traffic.
Is it too dangerous for them, though, to learn how to drive on the motorway? I suppose that's the bigger question, because yes, they need to learn, but is it too dangerous to learn on the motorway?
No, it's not too dangerous to learn, as long as they've got somebody qualified with them who respects the roads.
Well, that was Justin Dealey out and about earlier on. Kate Gibbs is from the Road Haulage Association. Kate, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it, giving lessons on the motorway?
We are not against giving lessons on motorway, but we are very, very cautious about it. Our motorway network at the moment, they're currently among the safest roads in the country, and we haven't had any evidence that says that new drivers are causing accidents. But we would want to learn more about how you actually define motorway conditions. Is this empty motorways, busy motorways? Anyone that has travelled on a motorway knows that the difference between 8 o'clock in the morning is very different to 9:30 in the morning.
I guess it would be a mixture of all of those things. And they may not have caused accidents, but that could be because other drivers around them are skilled enough to avoid these accidents. But you do see people who are very nervous on the motorway, don't you?
Well, you see people who are very nervous on the motorway. You also see experienced motorway drivers who drive, let's use the word alarming. Now, suppose that we got a happy medium with this before they actually drive onto the motorway itself, and also we would want, I would think, some form of system whereby other road users are aware that it is a learner driver in front of them.
Maybe they could have a big red L or something on the car to indicate that.
I think learner drivers already have a big red L on
you're right, yes.
For example, in several countries, when you've passed your test, you have a P plate on the back, which means you've just passed. Now, maybe a system whereby those that are travelling on the motorway also have a system for recognition. Now, what about using the faster dual carriageway network before they go straight onto a motorway?
Oh yes, as a way of progressing, but it's not the same.
Exactly.
Some truck drivers could certainly do with re-educating about how to use motorway, couldn't they?
I think when it comes to it, we could all do with periodic retraining of how to use a motorway.
Kate Gibbs, thank you very much indeed. Right, well, we can speak now to Neil Gregg, who is the Director of Policy and Research at the Institute of Advanced Motorists. Neil, do you agree with Brake on this one, that learner drivers should be given lessons on the motorway?
I think yes, lessons on the motorway. Brake are suggesting they should be mandatory, and they don't agree with that because simply from the practicalities of if you live in, it's fine if you live in the centre of England, but if you live in Norfolk or Devon and Cornwall, getting to a motorway would be very difficult. So if there's a motorway nearby, learner drivers should be allowed to use it, but you can't unfortunately make it mandatory because we just don't have enough motorways, unfortunately.
Well, if it's not mandatory, then it becomes pointless, doesn't it? But there is such a big difference between driving on the high street or even a dual carriageway and driving on a motorway.
Absolutely. The point has been made. Motorways are our safest roads because everyone's going in the same direction. No one's turning right. The bends are nice and smooth, that kind of thing that often catch young drivers out. And most young drivers do tend to have their big crashes on rural single carriageways. But there's no doubt you need a different set of skills for motorway driving. And for us, the key thing about this is if you look at the research around the world, the more experience you have on a wider range of roads, the safer a driver you will be in the long term. So it's all about getting experience, and we think learner drivers, where they can, should be allowed to get experience on motorways.
Neil Gregg, the first time you were on a motorway, what was it like? Terrifying?
It's a long, long time ago, and it was quite terrifying, yes. My own daughter, actually, I fell out with her because she had promised that she would go out with me for her first time on the motorway, but ended up going off shopping with her friends one lunchtime and phoned me up and said, I'm in the centre of Glasgow, as it happened at the time. Oh. And I said, hang on, how did you get there? And she admitted she'd gone on the motorway herself. And that's the sort of thing, do you want the young person to be on the motorway in front of you with a qualified instructor next to them in a clearly marked L car, or do you want them to be with a bunch of their mates going out for the first time and learning it together for the first time? And I think clearly common sense suggests that they should be allowed to go on the motorway to learn the skills properly, but you just can't make it mandatory because, unfortunately, in the UK, we just do not have as many motorways as many European other
I remember arguing with my mum during driving lessons. I bet having you as a dad was a nightmare. Neil, I appreciate your time. Neil Gregg, Director of Policy and Research at the Institute of Advanced Motorists. Well, Dave's in Luton. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
What do you reckon? Learners on the motorway? It makes sense, doesn't it?
Not with all plates, no.
Oh. Why?
No, but I was talking to a driving examiner, a tutor, learner, about a couple of weeks ago about that.
Yes.
And he said to me, when an examiner takes a person out to get their licence, if he doesn't feel, or she doesn't feel that driver's got enough experience to go on a motorway, they'll fail them.
Yes, that's the exam, yes.
If they pass them, that examiner knows that learner driver can drive on any road.
But Dave, how do they know that? Because driving down the high street and driving on the A429 is completely different from going on the M1, isn't it?
But they've got to get the experience of going to the motorway, haven't they?
Then they should be...
It's the same as the Dartford Tunnel. Are they going to say, we can't put them through the Dartford Tunnel because it's going to be too dark for them and too scary?
Well, no, the Dartford Tunnel's not dark. It's got lights in them, and I believe cars have lights on these days as well.
Yeah, I'm just talking. You go through that Dartford Tunnel when you first drive in.
The what tunnel?
It is scaring.
Dave, the what tunnel?
The big Dartford Tunnel.
What are you calling it? The Dartfield Tunnel?
Dartford.
Oh, OK. I thought you were saying Dartfield Tunnel. I think...
No.
OK.
No, I'm a Lutonian.
Oh, is the accent coming through? The Artful Tunnel, OK.
This man told me...
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Don't start.
No, you started. You were saying the Artful Tunnel.
You're getting like that Justin Dealey.
Oh, don't compare me to her, please.
But the man said to me...
Yes, you've got 2 seconds.
When you get your licence...
Yep.
The examiner knows that you're capable of driving on any road.
Yeah, right. You're actually talking over the travel now, Dave.
Oh, am I?
Is the travel? Hang on a minute. Adam.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Dave. Dave, can you finish? Can you say goodbye to Adam, please?
See you, Adam.
There we go, Adam. Away you go. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ian. It's all right. Things looking pretty decent. Most routes across the 3 counties. M1's pretty busy though, southbound. Junction 11 at the A505. As you go past there, it could take you 10 or 15 minutes to get through the queuing traffic. M25 is slow as you come in toward the Hertfordshire area. It's slow from Essex, the M11, through to Enfield at the A10 junction 25. Anti-clockwise also slow from St Albans to Watford, and a bit of traffic from Chorleywood to the M40. Clockwise now looking slow as well. A1M junction 23, that's going into the roadworks. M40 northbound, we've got queues between the Denham roundabout and the M25, so as you head off the A40 and onto the M40, a little bit slow going the other way past there as well. A10 through Cheshunt is queuing toward the M25, also slow through Enfield, and now traffic building in Watford with slow-moving stuff around the Bushy Arches. Trains and tubes running fine. Adam Glynn, BBC 3 Counties.
Thank you, Adam. You're a very decent gentleman. In the next hour, should curb crawlers be named and shamed? Did it work with you? We'll talk more after the news with Catherine.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC 3 Counties Radio.
It's 8 o'clock. The headlines: calls for prostitution clampdown, Milton Keynes fire suspect bailed, and Hornets fans flag fury.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
People living in Luton's Hightown say not enough's being done to stop prostitution blighting their neighbourhood. Here's our political reporter Paul Scoynes.
At the meeting of Luton Borough Council last night, the residents presented a petition of over 2,000 names criticising their local councillors for perceived indifference to the problem. The councillors deny this and point to investment in the way of CCTV and an additional police sergeant dedicated to the area. Politicians said they needed to work together more closely to solve this problem, but admitted the prostitutes had effectively been moved from one area of the town to another over the past 30 years.
A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. The 58-year-old man was arrested on Sunday following the fire at St Ledger Court in Great Linford. MPs have voted to introduce gay marriage despite a split in the Conservative Party. The change change was supported by David Cameron but opposed by 130 Tory MPs, including 12 ministers. Among those in favour, the Conservative MP for Broxbourne, Charles Walker.
I am delighted that the most celebrated friend in my household, loved by me, my wife and my 3 children, may have the chance, does have the chance, if he wants to marry the man that he loves. I didn't come into politics to be defined by what I'm against. I want to be defined by what I'm for, and tonight is a good night.
A motorist caught driving at high speed in Luton Town Centre has been given a suspended sentence and banned for 2 years. Shinari Maposa ended up crashing into a wall, as Gail Sanderson reports.
Luton Crown Court heard how the 24-year-old from Addington Way drove at 77 miles an hour down Stewart Street and drove the wrong way down Guildford Street. In Alma Street, he did a wheel spin. After he was arrested, he failed 4 times to provide a breath specimen. He was sentenced to 8 months, suspended for 2 years, was fined £2,000, ordered to pay £350 in costs and banned from driving for 2 years.
Ed Miliband's expected to criticise the internet giant Google for tax avoidance at their own conference held in Hertfordshire later. The Labour leader is due to speak at the Big Tent event at the Grove near Watford. A Watford fan is furious he'll be charged £1,500 to display a huge banner at the playoff finals. Nick Goldstein wants to pass the giant flag with the slogan "Come on, you Horns" over the heads of fellow supporters at Wembley, and he's not convinced by the stadium's claims they'd have to pay 8 people to handle that banner safely.
To me, it just seems like another way that the FA or Wembley are just trying to rip fans off for no apparent reason.
In sport, No, don't play that one. Andy Murray's decided not to play at the French Open in Paris due to injury. The world number 2 says he's not fit and is now focusing his efforts on being ready for Wimbledon. The weather cloudy to start but brighter later with a chance of a shower and a top temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. That's 59 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sports online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC 3 Counties Radio, 3 minutes past 8 on a Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. This is wonderful news. Here every weekday morning between 6 and 9. Lots coming up in the last hour of the show before JVS. We'll pop in, I would imagine, in about 13 minutes' time to let me know what he's talking about. But as residents in Hightown get angry over prostitutes, we're asking, should curb crawlers be named and shamed? One group has called for learner drivers to be taught on the motorway. Well, should learners be allowed on the M roads? And I'll be speaking to the Dunstable woman who saw George Michael fall out of his car onto the M1 last week. Yes, that's a true story. Facebook.com/BBC3CR 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or you can give me a call 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC 3 Counties Radio.
This morning I'm talking about an issue that we featured on the show a number of times. The problems residents say they're having with prostitutes in an area of Luton. It was suggested at a council meeting last night that perhaps curb crawlers could be named and shaved, and that might not shaved, although that might be something as well. Would it work? Would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed? Well, at this council meeting, residents from the Hightown area presented a petition calling for action against the prostitutes. They say the problem is out of control, with people allegedly having sex in doorways. Shazad Kadam is the shopkeeper who presented the petition last night.
They're saying that they've done something for the residents. We haven't seen nothing. All we can see is that they seem to be rewarding them. They're quite happy for our area to be a designated tolerance area. It was designed to house these criminals. It was designed for them, and we were the unlucky ward which had to bear all the pain.
That was Shazad Kadam. Well, the 2 councillors who are criticising the petition spoke to our political reporter, Paul Scoynes, last night. Paul?
Yes, that's right, Ian. I mean, the petition was quite specific about the 2 councillors in the Hightown area, Roxana Whittaker and Andrew Malcolm, and it said that the criticism their work, and has particularly referred to the fact that they'd been involved with this charity. Now, they said that the criticism was unfair, and actually that the charity that they had worked with and that Roxana continues to work with actually helps prostitutes out of the business, if you like. So they've managed to extricate over 90 prostitutes.
And those figures came from Roxana, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Does she have any evidence to back that up?
Well, the charity has been, working with them, and she says that they have taken 91, I think it is, prostitutes out of prostitution, and actually as well, they talked about the fact that there is going to be a child exploitation unit set up in Luton later this year. They say that's a real problem, that young people, underage girls, often are coming into this game, and they are sort of being exploited through drugs, and are going into this messy business. It's not really quite sort of sinister, really, when you look at what sort of happens to prostitutes. Anyway, these two councillors said that the criticism was unfair, and actually they had done a lot for residents.
I think we have to recognise that although it's really difficult for the residents where they live, and nobody should have to live in the situation they're living in, unfortunately what we've got in Hightown is an incredibly complex problem, and it's not going to be dealt with overnight. And I think maybe one of the issues that we need to work on is making sure that the residents are aware exactly how much work we've done, how much action we have taken, and that's definitely not just recently.
I mean, to what extent is this a police issue or a council issue?
I think that there are some definite crimes that are committed around all of this, and obviously that's the police issue. But I think it's important that we work together with the police, as the council, as the health service, voluntary organisations, anyone that works together on this issue, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can, because it does have wider implications.
I mean, is there a question perhaps of saying this is a serious problem, we recognise it's a serious problem, we probably need to ask for more money?
We are looking as a council to spend money on our housing that we own, because that's something that we are in a position to be able to do. So we're looking at the Path estate, looking to invest significant amounts of money into that, and then also into the wider Hightown area. If it is possible to do that, we are going to take that forward. Yeah.
What's been your relationship like with some of the residents? I know that there's a petition tonight, and it's been signed by, it looks like, a lot of people, making some pretty sort of personal comments about the way that you two have engaged. How does that make you feel?
I think it's unfortunate on a personal level, but I think ultimately we recognise the problems that the residents are having, and we're working towards solving those. I think it's important to note that a lot of residents have come to us, spoken to us directly on the issues that we've already mentioned, and we've been able to do practical things to help them. I think we probably would like everybody to know that we're always keen to talk to them, and I think a lot of where the petition is coming from is probably based on a misunderstanding of our position, and the fact that actually our priority is the residents, and making Hightown a better and safer place for people to live.
Because, I mean, you do work with this charity which goes and helps women, and there's no doubt that people in these situations need help, right? But some of the residents are feeling that you're more inclined to help the girls on the street who they consider to be part of the problem.
I think it does unfortunately lie on a misunderstanding, and probably the best thing that we can do around that is communication, because I really feel that the work of the charity complements the work that we're doing as a partnership, because it does mean that women are exiting and they're not working on the streets, which can only be a good thing. But that's one part of the work that I'm doing. The majority of the work revolves around all the initiatives that I've already mentioned.
Well, that was Paul Scoynes speaking to Roxana Whitaker. That was last night, wasn't it, Paul?
Yeah, that was right, just before the meeting.
And some councillors said the solution was to name and shame curb crawlers and to fine them even more. 08459 455 555. What do you think about that? Joined now by Mike Garrett, who's a Conservative councillor in Luton and was at the meeting last night. Mike, is there a serious problem in Luton with prostitution?
There certainly is a serious problem, particularly in the Hightown area. Listening to Roxane and Councillor Malcolm, it seems they're taking a soft approach. This needs far more than a soft approach. I think that there needs to be action by the police, certainly by the police, I understand that on the first offence they get a warning, the second offence they get a warning, and perhaps eventually, down the line, they might get prosecuted.
Well, Mike, you mentioned that. Listen, I've got a clip. This is when Ollie Martins was in a few weeks ago. He's the PCC for Bedfordshire. This is what he had to say would happen.
If you get caught curb crawling once, you will get friendly words of advice. If you get caught twice, there will be a letter going to your household that your wife might see that you are going to Hightown looking for sex. And if you get caught 3 times, you will be prosecuted.
Mike, is that not tough enough in your eyes?
No, it's not tough enough. It's in the hands of the police and the council to sort this out. I had this problem many years ago in the Brook Street, Crawley Road area, and we solved it.
How? What did you do?
In conjunction with the police. Well, we put barriers up, and I understand that's been done in Hightown in certain areas, but the key thing was to find these people on the first offence. And what they did then was they fined them £500 for the first offence, and it just doubled. And most of these girls weren't local girls. They were coming down from Coventry, Leicester, Birmingham on a daily basis. And we drove them out. We didn't move them to a different area. We drove them out.
So you were finding the curb crawlers? Or the girls?
The curb crawlers and the prostitutes. If there's no curb crawlers, you won't get the prostitutes.
If you find a prostitute, though, who probably hasn't got much money, they're going to get that money by doing more prostitution, aren't they?
Well, that's supposed to be the theory, and that's what the goody-goodies of this world say. But the point is, you need to drive it out. I wouldn't want to live in an area like that, and I was brought up in Hightown.
Would you? Do you think you drove it out, you say? Did you drive it to Hightown?
No, we didn't, because these girls were coming down from Birmingham and Leicester, as I already said. But you're always going to get prostitution. I mean, you're never going to stop it. The only way you're ever going to stop it is legalise it, and I don't think any government's prepared to do that.
Paul Scoins wants to come in, Paul.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, last night at the meeting, it was all about how it had been moved from one part of the town to another over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, you can't really sort of say that we're not going to have this problem for a long time, can we, really?
What you can do is to make sure that the prosecutions take place and the fines are heavy. It's the curb crawlers you need to push as much as the prostitutes are, because they're the ones that are paying for this. Naming and shaming them, half of these people, they couldn't care less about that.
So you don't think that would work? If we had if it was the local paper, the names of people and maybe photographs, and if every Monday at 7:20 we had a little roll call of naughty people who'd been caught curb crawling, you don't think that would have any effect?
It probably would have an effect, but we're certainly not doing that at the moment.
Would you like to see that done, the naming and shaming?
Like to see it done.
I'll speak to my boss.
What I suggested last night is that there needs to be a separate... I mean, I heard from Roxanne last night at council when she said, well, there is a group looking into this. It needs to be referred by the council to scrutiny. Scrutiny is a very powerful committee. We have the powers to call in the police commissioner, and I would like to see a committee set up, including the residents and the 2 ward councillors, if they so wish, and we can hammer this out to see if there is anything further that we can do.
Mike, there might be some people listening who would think, another committee, that's just more talk, that's just going to take another 6 months, 8 months. It's not getting things done, is it?
Well, not on the short term, it certainly isn't. But this is a long-term issue which is going on for some time. It may be, in the end, that's what the council does. In the meantime, what we need to do is to name those that are prosecuted, not just give them a warning on the first occasion. Take their names and say that they will be named and shamed right from the first offence. I know I'm hard, I know I'm tough, but that's the way I see that you're going to drive this out of Hightown.
A final question, Mike. You wouldn't like to see a legalised brothel in Luton? Get these girls off the street?
That's a very difficult question. I know it works in other countries, but it's not for Luton Council to set one up. That's a matter that needs to go before Parliament, and I can't see any political party recommending that. Where they put it is the big issue.
Well, that's a phone in for another day, I'm sure. Mike Garrett, Conservative councillor in Luton, thank you very much. Paul as well, thank you for going to that meeting last night. 08459 455 555. We'll speak to Justin in a couple of minutes, who's out in Hightown, and we'll speak to him after this.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M1's looking busier southbound as you go past Milton Keynes. From Newport Pagnell to Milton Keynes is looking slow. Also delays from junction 9 at Redbourne toward Hemel Hempstead at junctions 8 and 7. M25 anti-clockwise, still pretty stop-start from Essex into the roadworks, junction 27 to 25. And then as you continue round from St Albans to Watford and Chorleywood to the M40. Clockwise looking busy going into the roadworks at junction 23. The M40 on the northbound side from the A40 through to the M25 is slow moving. So as you go past the Denham roundabout, it's looking slow, and I think a little bit slow coming the other way as well. Around High Wycombe, we're not doing too badly this morning. Bit of traffic building in Hertford, though, the A414 westbound in particular, between the A10 and Cross Lane. As for the tubes and the trains, well, if you're heading into London, tubes are looking good, and on the train departure boards across the three counties, things are running to time. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Right, it's 8:16. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living in Luton's Hightown say not enough's being done to stop prostitution blighting their neighbourhood. A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. In sport, Andy Murray, who's only 26, has pulled out of the French Open tennis in Paris due to a bad back. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. Cloudy to start, brighter later, with a chance of a shower and a top temperature of 15 degrees. I'm a little bit windy, Pops. Did you notice?
No,
good.
Never.
OK, I always get windy Pops doing the news. I don't know why. Coming up, is tax avoidance morally wrong? Internet giant Google, who are being criticised for paying as little tax as possible, are holding their annual conference today in Hertfordshire. Ed Miliband is going to be there. We'll find out more before 8:30.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On Sunday, it's the Luton International Carnival. And with BBC Three Counties Radio, it'll be like you're right there. I'll be bringing you all the flavour, atmosphere and music from Luton's flagship event.
We'll be in the parade and in the crowd.
Plus, we'll be hosting the main stage in Wardown Park.
So come down and see us or listen live right here. Luton International Carnival, Sunday from midday on BBC Three Counties Radio.
This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Jonathan, come to you in a second because we have to go to Justin Dealey. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do Justin, then we'll speak to you and
That's
find
fine.
out. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Justin Dealey, you're in Hightown, aren't you, Justin?
I
We've
am
been talking
indeed.
about the prostitute situation and the council meeting last night. What have you been discovering?
Well, I've got Joe with me, who's live here at the radio car. Joe, you've lived in Hightown for 40 years. We're talking about curb crawlers this morning. Should they be named and shamed? What do you think?
Yes, they should. And their registration number read out.
I mean, a lot of people here are very, very angry about this. Have you been approached by prostitutes yourself?
I have. It's 7 o'clock in the morning.
7 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, you know, when you hear about it, you expect it. So...
7 o'clock in the morning, you don't expect that,
no,
do you?
No, you don't.
You know, maybe at night, but 7 o'clock in the morning. And a very brief word here with yourself, madam. What do you think? Curb crawlers, should they be named and shamed?
Most definitely. It's really distressing when I'm going home every night from here. We worked here for 30 years, but every night downtown, you know, travelling down, there's about 5-6 of them in each corner. And also my nephew has been approached on his way back from school about 6 o'clock.
Your nephew,
My nephew.
on the way back from school. How old is your nephew?
16.
16 years old?
He was approached and he said to them, what do you think? I don't have any money and I'm not interested.
Wow. So Joe here at 7 o'clock in the morning, your nephew, 16, on the way home from school.
6 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So you would like us then to read out the names on our radio station. You'd also like the local papers to print those names as well. You think that will make a big difference?
I'm sure it would. They would be ashamed.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Incredible. Approaching a 16-year-old. So that's the latest here from Joe and also this lady here in Hightown in Luton, which is just behind the train station. People often say to me, where is Hightown? It's just behind the train station in Luton. Back to you in the studio.
Why are they asking you where it is, Justin? They want to go. Is that what you're saying?
No, but a lot of people, obviously, we've heard so many different terms. People saying it's like a war zone here. We've heard that term. People saying, well, where is it in Luton? It is just behind the train station.
Justin, thank you very much indeed. It has been described as a war zone. That was mentioned in the meeting last night. Someone said, well, actually, it's offensive to people who've been to war zones to describe this as
It's
a war
not
zone.
like a war zone. I've driven past the prostitutes there, not slowly,
I hasten to add. In fact, if anything, I sped up.
Really? Well, you were saying you visited a friend who used to live there, and you drove past those prostitutes. What's it like? It's been. I've not seen a prostitute on a street corner for a long, long time. What's it like?
Well, this is going back a few years, but very strange actually. There was one particular night I drove through there, and there were loads.
Really?
Like literally, there were kind of 4 or 5 all stood on street corners in close proximity.
Yes.
Some of them, it would be fair to say, didn't look very well.
Right.
Actually,
I think that's the issue.
And yeah, it was just all rather strange. I can absolutely understand why people living there wouldn't want it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want prostitutes standing on the corner of my street either.
Name and shame. I can imagine you just before the consumer phone in 5 minutes past 11. You've just played Diana Ross.
Yeah.
You've come out of that.
You'd have a jingle for it.
You have a little jingle. We're going to find out about Edith and her gas boiler a little bit later on. But before that,
Curb Crawler Watch. This morning on Curb Crawler Watch, Iain Lee. You dirty devil. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, but not my name. I would expect a few, favours and stuff. That you'd be able to...
I see. I'd let you off.
Mates rates, yes.
Why am I doing it?
Because I thought I should do it, but I think it would be more authoritative coming from you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, I look forward to that feature.
I just think it could be it could work. You know, something. The jingle would be something. And now it's time for Curb Crawler Watch with Jonathan Vernon Smith. And you do it. You'd read a list of names.
Couldn't we get Peter Dixon to do it?
Oh, yes.
Ollie Murs, Curb Crawler Watch.
Right, Ollie Murs has not been curb crawling.
No.
I just have to say for legal reasons.
I was just demonstrating.
No, Ollie Murs. Don't, please. Not another legal case. I can't handle another libel. What's on your show this morning, Jonathan?
Coming up on the big phone in this morning, should we make it easier for men to use prostitutes? Residents from the Hightown area of Luton, as you've been discussing this morning, have presented a petition to the council calling for action against prostitutes in the town. They say the problem's out of control, with people apparently having sex in doorways. At a meeting last night, some councillors called for men who pick up prostitutes to be named and shamed in the press. But from 9, my take on this is, are we dealing with this in completely the wrong way? Should we just accept that men will pay for sex and women will make sex their work? So actually, criminalising as many people as possible, naming and shaming, attacking the men for availing themselves of the services of these prostitutes is actually the wrong way to go about it. Should we make it easier for men to use prostitutes? Your view from 9, 08459 455 555. One thing though,
yes,
and I don't know if you know of this, but sitting in our building here in Luton,
yes,
we're not that far from a brothel. Do you know this?
I did know that. Yes, I do. Yes, I know exactly where that is.
Which
yes.
does kind of beg the question: why on earth is anyone having to curb crawl if there are places you can already go where there are young women ready and waiting inside brothel? Well, from 9 this morning, should we make it easier for men to use prostitutes? Your view on the big phone in.
Just say that word one more time.
Brothel.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, from one naughty thing to another naughty thing. Tax avoidance. Is it morally wrong? Internet giant Google is holding their annual conference known as the Big Tent UK later today in Hertfordshire. Labour leader Ed Miliband is due to talk at the event held at the Grove. It comes just days after he criticised Google for avoiding tax.
Well, I think people will be shocked by the evidence that Google is going to extraordinary lengths to avoid paying their fair share of tax. And it comes on top of other firms apparently engaging in similar practices. I think it is evidence of a culture of corporate irresponsibility among certain firms, which is totally unacceptable. And of course, we've now seen allegations about petrol price fixing as well. And it comes at a time when ordinary families are seeing services cut, their taxes rising, and so many businesses are struggling to make ends meet and are actually doing the right thing and paying their fair share of taxes. As so often under this government, I think it's evidence of one rule for those at the top and another rule for everyone else.
Well, is tax avoidance morally wrong? Earlier on, I spoke to independent financial advisor Steve Baker from Buckinghamshire.
They're not doing anything illegal. They may be doing something immoral. They've got very advanced, clever tax lawyers who show them how to work loopholes to avoid paying corporation tax. If the government want to stop it, we have to have a concerted government response and effort to do so. But the problem here is there are different corporation tax rates across different countries in Europe, so it's a very complex area.
Well, I'm joined now by Robert Oxley from the Taxpayers Alliance. Robert, what's your take on Google? We know they're not the only ones, are they?
Well, look, Google have certainly come in for some stinging criticism of late, and they've certainly deserved it. But the thing is that actually, I think the people who are getting away here with the real crime is actually the politicians who designed the system. And listening to Ed Miliband speak, it was almost sounded as if he had absolutely nothing to do with what the tax rules, the incredibly complex tax code that Google, Amazon, all those companies are able to exploit. And the fact is that they aren't breaking the law, and the reason they aren't breaking the law is that we've got a tax code which is dysfunctional, and if you can afford the right accountant, you can weave your way around it. So actually, it's time politicians stepped up to the plate, and rather than into this kind of moral blame game, actually did something about the root cause of the problem, which they are responsible for, and that is our tax code.
Is there anything they can do? Because if we just change the tax laws here, these companies will find loopholes elsewhere, won't they?
Look, there's absolutely something we can do. We have one of the most complex, one of the longest tax codes in the world. That's what creates many of these loopholes. You know, we've seen criticism of energy firms for the fact that they didn't pay that much corporation tax, when actually what's happening most of the time is those energy firms are taking advantage of specific reliefs designed by politicians to encourage investment in certain areas. The fact is that all political parties share a blame on this. I think it's quite disingenuous for either political party to try and claim the moral high ground on here, because basically we've had chancellors of all colours stand up each year. They get to the budget, they decide they're going to tinker with the system, they make it more complex for you and I, they make it more complex for the local business down the road trying to struggle, they make it more complex for the bigger, larger corporations. And the fact is that while we might be unhappy about some of those choices that they do make them within the law. And the only way to make sure that everyone is paying their fair share, no more or no less, is to simplify the system. And that's Ed Miliband's job. That's George Osborne's job. That is the Public Accounts Committee, the guys who've really been raising this as an issue. They've sadly gone into a point where they berate an individual who comes in, but we're not actually seeing any real progress on simplifying the system, which would mean that we wouldn't have our tax code and the amount of tax that a company pays wouldn't have to be a moral judgment for a politician who is normally looking for votes rather than actually doing the best thing in taxpayers' interest.
Robert, the argument that's often put forward by these big corporations that avoid their taxes, that if we started taxing them what they're actually supposed to pay, they would possibly leave the country, and they are big employers, aren't they?
Look, I think we need competitive tax rates. So that's why I've always argued for lower taxes, because actually, corporations don't pay taxes as much as a toaster pays tax. It's you and I who pays tax, because if your company, in the same way, even if your company employs 20 people or 20,000, if they get taxed more, it means three things. It means lower wages for everybody, it means higher prices for everybody, and it generally means less jobs for people, because that money has to come from somewhere. It's not just created out of thin air. So the point is that we do need a competitive tax system. Ireland, which has a more competitive tax system, has attracted these big companies, which has brought employment, which has brought jobs. The fact is that we need all kinds of diverse firms in this country contributing to the economy. That's why we need tax reform, because not only would it mean that we restore legitimacy to our broken tax code, but it would also restore economic growth, which is something that we desperately need in this country.
Robert Oxley from the Taxpayers Alliance, thank you very much.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
M1 London bound, delays between Luton Airport at Junction 10 and Redbourne at Junction 9. Taking maybe 10-15 minutes to get through at the minute. M25 anti-clockwise, still slow as you come into the roadworks section from Essex, looking slow from the M11 to the A10. And delays now, it's stop-start from the M1 all the way through to the M40, so it's more one big slow-moving patch of traffic. Quite slow on the clockwise side as well, going into the roadworks at the A1M side, Junction 23. M40 continues to look busy between the A40 and the M25. It's looking all right at the minute past High Wycombe. Just a quick check of the cameras around there just to make sure it hasn't suddenly got busy, and I think everything's still looking quite good. No major issues really on the A1, but it is slow as you come in toward London through Boreham Wood, Stirling Corner to Mill Hill Circus, and Q's building in Watford as well, Vicarage Road looking slow near to Exchange Road. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. It's 8:30. Let's get the news and sport now. Here's Catherine Boyle.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. People living in Luton's Hightown say not enough's being done to stop prostitution blighting their neighbourhood. A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. And a driver's been banned for 2 years after being caught doing 77 in Luton Town Centre's 30-mile-per-hour zone.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy Murray will miss the French Open, which starts on Sunday. The world number 2 is continuing to struggle with the back injury that forced him to retire from the Italian Open last week. Here's our tennis correspondent, Jonathan Overend.
After having a second scan and getting another specialist opinion, Murray has taken the wise, precautionary option and won't risk his back in Paris. It bothered him during last year's clay season and hurt badly in Rome last week. He says it's been a really tough decision to make, one he's taken reluctantly, but the last thing he wants to do is aggravate the injury at Roland Garros, a tournament he'd be unlikely to win, and risk missing Wimbledon, where of course he'll be one of the favourites. Murray, in a statement last night, apologised to the organisers of the French Open, thanked everyone for the messages of support and confirmed that his complete focus is on getting back on the court as soon as possible for the grass court season.
The Manchester City midfielder Samir Nasri has given his backing to Manuel Pellegrini joining the club as their new manager following the departure of Roberto Mancini. Meanwhile, Stoke City are looking for a new boss after Tony Pulis left the club by mutual consent. Pulis was in charge for 7 years at the Britannia Stadium but leaves after holding talks with chairman Peter Coates yesterday. The Bedford Rugby Club chairman Jeff Irvine says they won't move away from Goldington Road. His comments come the day before the first leg of their championship playoff final against Newcastle. Bedford's home ground isn't up to Premiership standard, and Irvine says promotion won't be financially viable.
Cost London Welsh £1.5 million to get promoted, £2.5 million to get relegated. I can think of far better ways of spending £4 million if I had £4 million to spend. And we're not going to move away from Goldington Road. You know, Goldington Road's our spiritual home, and that's where we'll stay.
And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 9.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, here every weekday morning between 6 and 9 o'clock. Podcast starts on Friday. Yes, if you can't listen to the whole show, shame on you. You should make more of an effort. And if you can't be bothered to go to the BBC iPlayer, well, double shame on you again. You should make more effort. But for those of you who can't make the effort, then you can go to iTunes and the BBC website, and you'll be able to download a weekly, in inverted commas, best of, although we're not calling it that, and because that may not live up to the trade's description. Coming up in the last 30 minutes, should learner drivers be allowed on the motorway, and more of your calls on naming and shaming. But before that, my favourite headline of the week. I saw George Michael fall out of a 70 miles per hour car and bounce down the M1. Well, it turned out the woman who witnessed this amazing thing is from Dunstable. 23-year-old Catherine Fox says she was... Well, she's here. Catherine, good morning, Catherine.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
And you.
Tell me the story. You're driving along the M1 near St Albans.
Yeah, I was on my way home from work. I was in the third lane and the car in front had slowed down, so I went to go into the fourth lane, realised he'd then slowed down. At that point, everyone was going normal. There wasn't any traffic, really. Yeah. So I had to slam my brakes on and went between the third and fourth lane. Because I was going quite fast, my car then spun out a little bit and went back into the third lane. At that point, I looked back and saw a body lying in the road. So I stopped my car because no one else had stopped apart from the car behind, which I thought was odd.
So everyone was just driving past?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, and I can't imagine why anyone wouldn't.
No, I saw a car, its tyre go a few weeks ago. I pulled over to help them, make sure they were all right. Of course you do, yes.
Yeah.
But they didn't. You were the good Samaritan.
Well, there was another guy behind who was an off-duty police officer, and he had stopped as well. And I got out of my car, and the guy's phone had gone out of battery, so we used my phone to call the ambulance. And because he was an police officer, he had a jacket and everything, so he put his hard...
And this is in the middle of the motorway?
In third lane.
And cars are still going past you?
No.
See, that must have been terrifying for you to be stood on the motorway.
Well, it was, and at one point the guy behind me said, do you want to get in your car and go over to the hard shoulder? But because all the cars were going normally, I couldn't just start my car and start going into the motorway normally. So I reversed my car up so that George Michael was in between my car and the back car.
That's a great sentence.
Still didn't know it was George Michael.
You didn't know it was him?
Until the Friday evening, the next day.
So this happened on the Thursday last week?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll find out when you discovered it was him in a minute. So you kind of reverse your car a bit just to protect this, at the time, unknown gentleman's body.
Yeah.
And then what happened? You just waited?
He was conscious and everything, and
Right.
he was sat up, and the people who he was in the car with came across the road. I don't remember that bit at all.
Right.
But then they were comforting him, sat behind him. The police or the ambulance were asking me how old he was, so I asked the gentleman how old he was, who was with George Michael, and he obviously said 49, and it still didn't click.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was sat there being comforted by the guy with cuts on his head. And
did you speak to him? Because when I've been on the scenes of are you all right, mate? Can I get you anything? You're doing all that?
Yeah, like he was a normal guy.
And what did he say?
he was. I'm totally shocked. So I don't think he was in any state to talk.
Right,
I don't think
okay.
anyone would be in that position.
Okay. So the ambulance came, the police came, and they load him up, and he went in the helicopter, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he went into the ambulance first because the
Right.
helicopter took longer to arrive, but the ambulance would arrive while I was still on the phone to them, which was really good.
Yeah.
They pulled. I don't know if they knew at that point. I'm not sure, but yeah, the ambulance pulled up. George Michael went into there until the helicopter came, and he landed in the field opposite.
And how long did it take? I've got a picture here. This is from yesterday, Sun, page 5. How long did it take for in this picture, the road is blocked, and there's your car, there's where George Michael is, and there's traffic going back, well, I would imagine, for quite some distance. How long did it take to block the M1 like that?
It was almost immediately as soon
Right.
as those cars came, because that ambulance there turned on his side, and obviously cars saw.
Wow.
And the guy who was behind me was an off-duty police officer, so at that point he had slowed the traffic down and was getting it more in line, so people knew there was something about to stop.
Right, so that was Thursday. What time did this happen, roughly?
About 5:45 it must have been, because I left work at
Right,
5:30.
okay. So you go home, and if you're involved in an incident like that, I imagine you're a bit shaken yourself,
I was,
aren't you?
yeah. That was one of the reasons why I stopped in the first place, because I had nearly crashed myself.
Yeah.
So I was a bit sort of shooken up, and I didn't know that. I didn't know what had happened with him. I don't know whether he'd fallen out of a car or.
So you didn't see him fall out. You just saw a body on the road.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get home that night.
Mhm.
I don't know if you live with your parents or if you live with your boyfriend. You go, oh, Mum, I've had a really. Oh, you won't believe what just happened. A guy fell out in the middle of the road. Oh, it was awful. I'm off to bed. That was the evening. Is that what?
Kind of.
Right.
I was slightly shocked, and Mum made me a sugary tea.
Yeah, mums are excellent, aren't they? That's totally the first rule of mums is make a nice sugary tea.
So I sat there, and my boyfriend was waiting for me, and he sort of comforted me, and then it was sort of the topic the whole night, really.
So at what point you didn't recognise this guy at all? He was just a chubby bald fella with a beard.
Yeah.
My words, not yours.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. At what point did you realise it was George Michael?
The next day I was at work, and I was speaking to one of my colleagues late in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and we were just saying whatever. She went back to her desk, and someone had emailed her saying, so this is the reason why we were late home last night.
Right.
And sent the link of George Michael on the BBC, because it was only the BBC that knew,
Yeah.
and they said he'd been in a car accident.
Yeah.
Obviously that's why it didn't click in my head first of all. Then she sent me that link, I put two and two together, and I was sat there, and my mouth sort of dropped, and I was, well, that was me with him.
Oh, that's fantastic! And did your mates believe you at work? Oh, shut up, Catherine.
Well, because I told them,
Yeah.
and they knew I didn't know about this, they automatically believed me. And then I went upstairs and told my boss, and was like, oh my God, can you believe this just happened?
Yeah.
Rang my mum and dad, and they were like, no way.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, very nice moody photo of you in the sun. They're
I
looking at
know.
your serious face. It's,
Well, I started. I was smiling at the start, and then I thought, right, maybe this isn't right.
bit inappropriate.
Yeah. So they said, "Oh, just do another face."
do
so
a sensible, serious.
They were like, "Do a serious
moody
face." Serious face.
I'm assuming George Michael has been in touch and sent you, I don't know, tens of thousands of pounds to say thank
no,
you.
Unfortunately, not.
Has he not?
No.
Has he not? I mean, he's in hospital.
He's
I
still in
think-
hospital, so I don't know. I don't really know how he is or anything, but I would hope to hear from him just to see.
You'd think he'd invite you round to his house for a cup of tea or a
Cup of
cheeky
tea,
smoke or
sugary
something.
tea.
Yeah, it's a nice sugary tea. Maybe a signed greatest hits or something like that.
Yeah, it
would be quite
nice.
and you're getting all this attention from. I mean, it is. That's such a great headline on the front page of the Sun. I saw George Michael fall out of 70 miles per hour car and bounce down the M1.
Bounce.
Another moody photo. You're getting all this attention. What's that like? Because you've just witnessed a car accident. That's all that happened, really.
Yeah.
But suddenly you're on the front page of this. You're doing radio interviews. What's that all like?
It is surreal. Obviously the day before I was just a normal person going to work,
Yeah.
and now people are getting hold of me here, there, and everywhere, and
Yeah.
contacting me and things. And it is surreal, but it's such a. this will go,
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
imagine,
Yeah.
within the next couple of days. So it's something that you just
How on earth do you fall out of a car that's on the motorway at 70 miles an hour?
do not ask. I don't know. I've got no idea.
Well, listen, well done you. Seriously well done for stopping and helping someone in trouble, because I would like to think that more people would, and I'm shocked that people just drove past.
No.
That sounds incredible. So well done. That's a great thing to do.
Thank you.
If George Michael gets in touch, can you let us know?
I will.
Excellent. Catherine, very nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555. It's just the weirdest story, isn't it? Imagine that you're driving along and suddenly George Michael is lying in front of you on the road. Oh, and I'm being given a cup of coffee as well. Paul, would you mind escorting Catherine off the premises, please, and make sure she leaves the car park safely, just in case. Just in case it's her fault. She could be a jinx. You never know. You never know. Make sure no one else falls out of any cars. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. We're talking about cars and motorways and people who perhaps shouldn't be on motorways. Not Catherine, George Michael I'm referring to. The road safety team, Break, is suggesting that learners should have lessons on motorways. It is a big step up, isn't it? Even if going from a dual carriageway to a motorway, it's a quantum leap in the skills that are required. Well, John's at Milton Keynes. John, do you think we should let learners go on the motorway?
Well, it depends on whether they live near a motorway or not, doesn't it, Ian? But I think what they should do is not let them on the motorway. What there should be is another like a little bolt-on course at the end where they can go on a simulator. Go to the test centre, get maybe 3, 4, 5 hours on a simulator, right? And I reckon now the highway code does cover the motorways, I believe, but that's in the perfect world, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is you've got all the numpties driving around on motorways, lorry drivers driving up your backside, and people not letting you onto the motorway, deliberately trying to block you off from getting onto the motorway, things like that. People up your backside flashing the lights at you. What they should do is in these simulators have somebody in the back room somewhere pressing buttons to basically throw different situations in your way.
What?
They might have someone falling out of a car at 70 miles an hour, things like that, to see how you react.
Very good, well done. But simulators, John, you might as well just sit at home playing on your Xbox, playing Forza or Gran Turismo or something.
The thing is, you see, I mean, I consider myself a good driver, but I can't help myself when someone flashes their lights at me on the motorway or drives up my backside, whatever it is. I can't help but roll the window down and wave. I can't help myself do it. Now, I wouldn't recommend that for a learner driver or a new driver, but I seriously recommend that they go to these test centres, and I'd be in the back room and I'd be like, I'm going to get Michael Schumacher out, see how they deal with this, yeah? Get a truck driver driving up your backside, or get some other numpty doing something stupid, like throwing litter out and it hits your windscreen, that kind of thing.
Who are the worst people driving on the motorways, John? I do, because I'm doing a lot of motorway driving for this job, and it's fine, because it's a straight road, it's lovely. But I have noticed a lot, and this isn't all of them, I'm not in any way knocking all lorry drivers, some of them are excellent, but some of them are appalling, aren't they?
Oh, they're shocking, aren't they? For me, it's two of them. It's the businessman driving his executive car, driving up your backside in lane 3.
Yep.
If I'm overtaking something in lane 2 and I'm doing 70, you get him driving about 3 feet behind you, flashing your light.
Oh, the flashing of the lights when I'm doing the speed limit. Thank you.
Exactly, yeah. And then you get the lorry driver driving up the backside of someone who might have a sticker in their rear window saying baby on board, and not giving a monkeys and driving 2 or 3 feet behind them. Those are the two types of drivers. But I reckon this, seriously, Ian, these test centres should have a simulator on board to simulate the idiots.
John, thank you very much indeed. Claire in Houghton Regis has texted in 81333, starting her text 3CR and putting her name on as well. They get read out if the names are on. My first experience on the motorway was terrifying. It included the Dartford Tunnel, going on a weekend away with my 2 brothers. The hardest part was I had to face the 3-hour drive back the next day. See, the Dartford Tunnel, no problems with that at all. Yes, it's dark. They have lights in there. And also, most cars these days, they've got lights at the front, haven't they, which illuminate your way. I think they have. My Polo does. Did you hear the gentleman on Jonathan's show yesterday? He's got a £75,000 car. 75,000? Why would you? I begrudge paying £7,000 for my car with a part exchange. Why would you spend £75,000 on a car? And I saw it in the car park. It was a beautiful car. It was stunning. But £75,000 for a car? You couldn't park it anywhere, could you? Because you know that some little oik is going to key it. And John says here on the text, the biggest problem with the motorways are lorries. Now, listen, I'm not knocking all lorry drivers. Some of you are excellent. Some of you, pretty poor.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1, we've got delays London bound from Luton Airport down to Redbourne, junction 10 to 9, taking you maybe 10 or 15 minutes to get through the traffic there. Fairly slow on the A10 this morning, either side of the M25. First off, you've got queue southbound through Cheshunt, approaching the Winston Churchill Way, then through Enfield, between Bullsmore Lane and Southbury Road. And we've also got reports of an accident on Bullsmore Lane, the A1055, at the junction with Hertford Road. On the M25 itself, clockwise slow into the roadworks, junction 23 at the A1M. Anti-clockwise is slow coming into the other side of the roadworks, so from Essex toward Enfield. And then it's stop-start from the M1 right the way around to the M40. Busy onto and off the M40 as well at the start of the motorway, round the A40 at the Denham roundabout near to Uxbridge there. And a little bit of traffic building in Stevenage, the A602 starting to look slow as you go past Ingleside Drive and Corey's Mill Lane. Trains and tubes still running fine. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks very much, Adam. Right, it's 8:46 exactly. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living in Luton's Hightown say not enough's being done to stop prostitution blighting their neighbourhood. A man arrested after the discovery of a woman's body in a burnt-out flat in Milton Keynes has been bailed pending further inquiries. In sport, Andy Murray has pulled out of the French Open tennis in Paris due to a back injury. Coming up before 9, we'll talk more on the Luton prostitutes in Hightown. Would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed? I keep going to say shaved. It's not shaved, it's definitely named and shamed. Before that, let's get the weather. Here's Wendy Hurrell.
Beds, Herts and bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello there. Cloudy start to the day, but we are going to see some bright or sunny spells breaking through as we go through it. And temperatures then will get to about 14 or 15 degrees Celsius. It's also going to be a largely dry day, but just prepare for 1 or 2 light showers as we go through the afternoon. Make the most of this weather because for the next couple of days, it's really going to be quite unpleasant. Overnight tonight, a good scattering of quite heavy showers here and there. And all of us will get a strong wind springing up. So temperatures down to around 4 to 6 degrees Celsius, and that strong wind really dictating how it feels over the next couple of days. It's much, much fresher tomorrow. In fact, feeling quite chilly, if we're honest. There will be a good scattering of showers throughout the afternoon, and again, they will be on the heavy side. Temperatures will do well to get to 10 degrees Celsius, even with the help of a bit of sunshine in between those showers. And certainly gusty winds during the showers as well. Still a strong wind as we go through Thursday night into Friday, and there will be another spell of rain through Friday morning especially, and it looks like it will start to clear away during the afternoon with the wind easing back a little bit, but another very chilly day on Friday as well. The better news is though that this doesn't continue into the bank holiday weekend. It should be largely dry and bright by then, with temperatures recovering to about 15 or 16 degrees Celsius. We've just got to hold on to our hats over the next couple of days. That's your weather for now.
Every weekday from 3, Roberto Perrone with the best local news stories.
I get to meet a lot of really interesting people with the most amazing stories.
We feel as if we haven't been taken notice of.
Yesterday we heard that the bank had gone, but today it's still there.
The cat got delivered up in Kabul. You should be back in the UK in 2 months.
With the best local talking points.
Do some of the bakers have flapjack fights?
No, of course not, Roberto. Well, not in our shops.
Roberto Perrone, weekdays from 3.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, this morning we've been talking about an issue that we've featured on this show a number of times. The problems residents say they're having with prostitutes in an area of Luton. And I'm sure it doesn't just affect Hightown. It affects lots of different areas. It could affect you where you live. Well, it was suggested at a council meeting last night that perhaps one way of dealing with curb crawlers could be naming and shaming them. Well, what do you think? Would you like to see curb crawlers named and shamed? You'd have a list in the local paper every week of whoever's been caught. We do a little roll call of shame on BBC Three Counties Radio. Well, it's an idea. 08459 455 555. Keen to talk to you if you've ever used a prostitute. We can change your name and your location. But why did you use them? And what stopped you, if indeed you did stop? 08459 455 555. Well, Justin Dealey is in Hightown, aren't you, Justin?
I am indeed, Ian. I have to say I've been approached quite a few times by the prostitutes in that area. And, of course, when I have been in that area, I've been working, and I'm in a branded vehicle which clearly says BBC Three Counties Radio on it, and those that have seen the radio car know that it's got a mast which goes up about 20 foot in the air, so it's pretty obvious who we are. And I've been approached by prostitutes whilst working with the BBC badge on as well at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, so I can clearly understand the frustration of local people. I've been in Hightown for the last hour or so. I've been getting reaction from local residents, and this is what they had to say.
Can you just first of all describe to me how bad this area is for prostitution?
It is very bad around here. Where I live, I have needles, condoms and wrappers all over the place, so my children have to walk through them. The family downstairs where I live, they have to walk through them. You see prostitutes here 24/7. It is not a good area to be in at the moment.
It's a dreadful way to live, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. I am looking about moving out of this area.
We're asking this morning, should the curb crawlers be named and shamed? What's your thoughts on that?
I think they should. The only people that have anything to worry about are the people who've done wrong. If they've done nothing wrong, why worry about it?
And word for yourself as well, madam. Can you just describe your life? What's it like living here in Hightown with the prostitutes?
You don't go out after dark, even before it gets dark. They're out here. They're up against the front doors, carrying on their business. As a woman myself, I don't feel safe going out of the house because I'm approached by their customers. It's like living in a ghetto. It's awful.
You've got your young child here as well.
Yeah, they've witnessed it. We have to pick up the debris off the doorstep most mornings. So before I can take the kids out of the house, I have to pick up used condoms and needles.
Goodness me. And the question we're asking today, I'll put this to you. We're asking whether the curb crawlers should be named and shamed. Do you think that would make a difference?
Yeah, definitely, because the police have a tolerance for the girls. They don't do anything about them. They will only target the curb crawlers, but if you call them because they're carrying out the business, they don't turn up quick enough. So if they did a name and shame policy, it would stop them coming into the area.
Justin, have you seriously been approached first thing in the morning,
Absolutely.
offering you a whatever?
Yes, I have indeed, and this is absolutely true. It happened for the first time about 2 years ago, and I was offered a service, let's say, for a cigarette. It's a true story.
Really?
Absolutely.
You've got me speaking.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, I think I think that's sad, because I think it just shows how desperate these young ladies are. If they're doing it for a fag, then what else will they do it for?
It's a great shame. It's a great shame. And I think, obviously people in Hightown, you've heard them stories about clearing away needles and condoms when they're trying to walk their children to school. These are horror stories, but I think you've got to look deeper at the issue and find out how these women have got involved in prostitution in the first place. Whenever I've spoken to them, they do seem absolutely desperate, and to sell themselves for a cigarette, when you hear stories like that, things are really bad. It hasn't just happened once, it's happened 2 or 3 times in that area, and we're talking at times like 7 o'clock in the morning. We're not talking here about 10 o'clock at night, we're talking 7 o'clock in the morning.
Justin, thank you very much indeed. Well, Paul Scoins said, Paul, you were at the council meeting last night. Well, can you just summarise what happened?
Well, I mean, aside from the petition was presented and the residents, I think this petition is really a sign of the frustration that some of the residents are feeling about perceived inaction, not just from the council but from the police, from several other authorities as well. They said there's problems with the NHS. They criticise charities working nearby. They say that the interests of the prostitutes are more important than the interests of the residents. Now, the councillors who were the subject of this petition, they have said that they deny that. They say that the residents are at the heart of what they're trying to do. They say that they've been huge measures taken in terms of putting CCTV in, making closing off gates, installing barriers as well to stop the flow of traffic around the area, to try and sort of make life more difficult for curb crawlers in some ways, so they can't sort of get out of alleys, if you like, to try and sort of keep them in certain areas. And also that they've part funded a new police sergeant specifically for the area. Now, at the meeting, they said that actually 92 it was actually, women have been moved out of prostitution through the help of this particular charity. Other councillors were saying, we are seeing detritus, I will say detritus at this time of the morning, in people's front gardens, and residents as well were saying that they'd heard people in the act outside their bedroom windows at sort of 7 in the morning and also later at night as well. So it does definitely seem that there are a deep sense of frustration from residents and a perceived inaction from the authorities. However, what we did understand at the end of it, aside from calls for tougher lines on the curb crawlers, was that the council will potentially look to set up a working group to try and assess this problem in a bit more depth.
It's a very sad situation for both sides. I can see why the residents would be upset by this.
The thing is, I think what the council are saying is that they need to look at working together. The cross-party group, which was talked at the end of last night, is a reflection of what happened again in the 80s and the 90s. And as you heard from Mike Garrett earlier on, one of the councillors who was on that group then, it did make some changes. But what the other councillors are saying is that ultimately this problem has just been moved around from place to place in Luton, and there is no chance anytime soon of anything being resolved.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It is a very sad situation. I can see both sides of the story. The residents, of course, don't want this going on in their front gardens, literally. But it sounds a terrible situation for the girls as well, doesn't it? Well, JVS will be discussing this a little bit later. Well, in about 5 minutes' time. I'm in his studio. I've got to clear out very quickly. I'll be asking, should it be made easier to go and see prostitutes? 08459 455 555. Let's speak to Pat in Houghton Regis. Pat, you've not called in on prostitutes. You've called in about learners on the motorway.
I have, yes.
Should we let them on?
No, not until they've had a couple of months driving experience after they've passed their test.
Would they go on with with teachers, with qualified people?
Any driving instructor that goes on a motorway with someone learning to drive... learning to drive, what will happen is they could brake at any time, unpredictably, and that could have I can't say the word, that will have an effect on other drivers around them.
But we need something, don't we? I remember the first time I went on the motorway, and it was such a terrifying experience. It's nothing like driving on an A road, is it? Oh, he's gone. Pat? Oh, Pat's disappeared. Pat obviously got upset there at his inability to say catastrophic. I'll be out of your studio in a minute, Jonathan, I promise. I know. For those who missed the beginning of the show... I say that in inverted commas. My studio exploded. I nipped into Jonathan's rather luxury studio. I think I may be coming from here again. Did you bring your own chair in?
Yes, I like that one.
Oh, I see. OK, very fancy. But you're kind of just sat there looking at your watch, tapping your finger. I'll go in a minute.
No. I'll
go.
You carry on.
You can finish if you want.
No. You're doing a lovely job. Do keep going. Can I move the screen now?
You can do the screen.
Do you mind?
No, you move that.
Normally I do all this earlier.
Your licence fee is paying for this. Can you believe that? I'd ask for a refund.
Just put it over here.
OK, I'm just going to read some texts. OK?
Yeah, I'll just put this down here.
Kevin in Milton Keynes.
Sorry.
Kevin in Milton Keynes has texted in, as an ex-driving instructor, I think all learners should at least have dual carriageway training. I taught my students dual carriageways as it was ideal Well, I need that. I'm out of time now.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We've still got delays this morning on the M25. Things are looking pretty slow. Anti-clockwise as you come into the roadwork section from Waltham Abbey to Enfield. Then as you continue round the M1 to the M40 junction, 21 to 16 is looking slow. Clockwise is busy as you come toward the other side of the roadworks, so the A1M at junction 23. M40 is mainly slow as you come off the A40 and head toward the M25, so around junction 1A on the northbound side. Past High Wycombe, it's been all right through this morning. Southbound on the M1, we've got slow-moving traffic, a little patch of it that starts at Northampton, junction 15, and goes on toward Newport Pagnell and Milton Keynes, and it's also slow from Luton to Redbourne, junction 10 to 9. As for the sort of Enfield area. The A10's looking quite slow at the minute. Cheshunt toward Enfield. We've also got problems in Bullsmore Lane, the A1055. There's been an accident at the Hertford Road junction, and Watford looking slow on Pinner Road at the Bushy Arches. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
That's it, that's your lot. I'm back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. I have to vacate the studio now because Jonathan Vernon Smith is coming up and he's giving me, I can't even look at him, getting evils. We'll hear from him in a second. Ta-ta.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Iain. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon Smith. And coming up on this morning's Big Phone-In, I'm asking, should we make it easier for men to use